Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Those of you who have joined us and you're early, thank you so much. Welcome to our Friday weekly Ask Me Any Stock session, AMAS session. If you guys can see and hear me, this type of one or type of GM for good morning, let me just acknowledge all of you for being early today, right? We've been doing this for the past 7-8 months already, all right? Every Friday, adding value to you guys, talking about your stocks, your US stocks, your Singapore stocks. And today, right, we'll be talking about the US market, right? So let me just go to acknowledge all of you for just being early. Let's see who is here today joining us. Hi, good morning as well. Jared, hi, Andy. Good morning, Damien. Hi, John. All right, good to see you as well. Hi, Dave. I think every Friday you are here as well, Dave. Awesome, right? Thank you so much, VC. YQ as well. All right. Hi, David. Hi, Sabaraju, Catherine, Stephen, good morning. Daryl, good morning. Hi, Vincent. Okay, so welcome, guys. This is working, right? This is working. Our Friday weekly AMAS. Would it be okay? Would it be okay before we even begin today's session, right? Help me to like and to share, right? Help me to like and share. I think there should be a heart-shaped button somewhere at the bottom, right? Just help me to like and share. Help us to reach out to more people as well. Thank you so much. That will really help out the channel. And of course, if you still have not yet subscribe to my YouTube channel, all right? Or maybe if you are live on Facebook as well, if you have not followed our Facebook page, make sure you hit the like button, or there should be a bell icon at the top if you have not yet subscribed. All right, so hit that so that when we go live in the future, you will be alerted. All right, Ken. So thank you so much for those of you who have liked and shared. Really appreciate it. Good morning, Jared, Johnson, Nelson. Hi, good morning. Okay, so let's get started. Right? So basically, every Friday, guys, we do this thing called the AMAS, Ask Me Any Stock session. We do a quick market outlook, and of course, we'll cover the stocks that you guys are asking about, right? And today, it will be US stock. I think some of you are already typing the US stocks in the chat already. So later we'll come to that, right? Then of course at the end, me and Z will each share one US stocks that we like, all right, that you could potentially put in your watch list for even more upside, right? Because we have seen some, pretty good bullish signals coming out, all right, from my indicator, from my strategy, and I think it looks pretty good, right? So that's where we want to focus on some of those top stocks that we will share at the end. All right. Okay. So very good. Let me just go to do a quick, introduction of myself. Right. My name is Joey Choi. If you have not met before, well, I've been in this industry pretty much focusing on the stock market for the past one over decade, 15, 17 years already now. All right. I'm a stockbroker in Phillip Securities, one of the top brokers in Phillip. All right, and that's where we add value to our clients. We give them trading ideas to benefit from. We give them trainings and all that, right? So if you're not yet a client of mine in Phillip Securities, you want to get some of those ideas, the link is in the chat. Check it out, right? Find out as to how you come on board as a client for free and no additional cost to get some of my ideas for free, all right? So I've also run trainings, right? Whereby I teach people my one good trend strategy and perhaps how they could have a tool. I call it the One Good Trend Pro indicator, all right, to just makes trading so much easier, right? That takes the emotions out of trading. So later when we go through your US stocks, we'll show you guys the One Good Trend Pro indicator, right? So I have my team member here today as well. Bervin is still on reservist, or every Friday is on reservist, so he will not be joining us today. But I have my team member here today, Z. I think Z has been a very familiar face. All of you have probably seen Z many times. One of the top brokers under me in Phillip Securities, assisting our clients, assisting our group coaching session, conducting our one-on-one calls or mentees, assisting our portfolio manager as well. All right, and Z is pretty much an expert in anything to do with charts, candlestick, prices on the chart, patterns, whatever you name it. Why? Because she's what we call a CMT, Chartered Market Technician. All right, so maybe just pass on the mic to Z to share a little bit on herself for today.
All right, thanks Joey so much for the introduction. I know some of you guys might probably be missing Bervin, because some of you guys who are already clients of ours have been asking, hey, where is Bervin, right? But not to worry, Bervin will actually come back and join us after the National Day week. All right. So hi everyone, my name is Z, and for those who are new here, I like what Joey mentioned, I'm a big fan of charts, about trends, and the whole thing is like trying to make technical analysis simple and actionable for you guys, by adding value to you guys every Friday, right? So I've been with Joey's team for about close to 5 years now, since 2020, and recently earned my CMT, the Chartered Market Technician, last year. So very often you'll see us using the One Good Trend Pro indicator later on, right? Whereby, you know, it's definitely one of our go-to for spotting strong trending stocks without the noise, right? Without making anything too complicated. So yeah, back over to you, Joey, to actually get things started for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Z, all right, for the quick introduction. All right. So, yeah, later we'll go to cover your US stocks, right, using the One Good Trend strategy, all right, and of course, the One Good Trend Pro indicator that both of us have, and you know, we're very familiar with it. This is what I've created from scratch, and I can't wait to share with you guys, all right? Okay, so just a quick disclaimer, right? Whatever that's being shared today, all right, and of course, all the live AMAS session, right, standard disclaimer that we've shared, right, is just for education purposes only, right? So please do your own due diligence. Please do a little bit of homework as well. It's not really to ask you to buy or sell anything, or not to buy or not to do anything, right? Essentially, just sharing a little bit of our opinion, all right, on what perhaps you could do, right? But please do your own homework, all right, Ken? So let's go ahead to talk about the markets right now, specifically the S&P 500 index. So how many of you want me to cover the market? Just type M for market, guys. If you want me to cover the markets, right? Or maybe I can just skip that and can just go directly, all right, to your US stocks. Let me know. Just type M in the chat if you want me to cover the markets very quickly. Let me know. Type M in the chat. For those of you who are just joining us, welcome, right? Welcome. We have only just got started, right? Welcome to our Friday AMAS session, whereby, you know, we are covering US stocks today. So if you are kind of like scrolling through YouTube and Facebook, you have no idea who am I. My name is Joey Choi, top tier remisier trader in Philip Securities. I conduct training on stocks, right? Pretty much when you get in and when you get out of stocks. So if you're looking at stocks, right, you are in the right place. Stay tuned, right? Stay all the way to the end. So right now we're going to cover the markets. Just type M for markets, guys. If you want me to cover a quick run through of what has been happening in the markets, are we still seeing strength? Can there be more upside? Or maybe you want to sell because it's, you know, maybe going to come down, right? Just type M for market. Let me know. All right, let me see, right? So we have John, M as well. M, what about the rest? Do you guys want me to cover the markets? It's like only a few of you only, right? Then maybe we'll just skip it. Or should we do it? M, Dave as well. M, Damien. Okay, good. Let's just do it. All right, let's just cover the markets very quickly right now. So this is what I call the S&P 500 index, right? 6,363, right? So we have been pretty bullish, right, since the sell down. So, you know, every Friday we've been talking about this, right? We do a quick market recap. So I mentioned many times that, you know, since February and March, well, we actually got not one, but we got two bearish signals. So what I've done is I've quickly turned on what I call the One Good Trend Pro indicator that I have. As I say, we can turn this on, not just on stocks, on US stocks, on Singapore stocks, on Hong Kong stocks, or whatever, so it doesn't matter, right? But we can also turn it on the markets, all right? And like what I said, this is the S&P 500 index, right? Right over here, turn it off, gone, all right? It's just a blank chart with some prices moving up and down. But if you turn it on in a matter of seconds, there we go, right? It comes out with bullish, green signals, and even bearish, red signals to guide you when to get in and when to get out, right? As a confirmation, of course, if we get a few other confirmations, that will just push up, right, the odds of making the trades in the right direction. Does it make sense? All right. So we have bearish signals since March, February, down. And I mentioned to be patient. You know, you want to wait for a strong reversal, some signs of it, you know, moving back up, and then you get it back in. And that has came, or you can watch back our replays. We'll talk about it as well. That has came because we saw a new 1GT bullish signal coming out somewhere on April. In fact, somewhere on 29 April. All right. The short-term trend also was going down, started to turn up. There's another confirmation, all right? And this green line, obviously, it is still pointing up. Does it make sense, Bob? All right? It's still pointing up. So I would say that the short-term trend is up. The longer-term trend for the S&P 500 index, the market, right? It was up all the while in 2024. But of course, since beginning of the year, it turned a little bit sideways, right? Because we sold down. But right now, it seems like there are some signs of it potentially starting to turn back into a longer-term uptrend, especially with the red and blue line starting to turn up. Look, let me just zoom in for you can see, right? Both the red and the blue line, 100 days moving average, and the 200 days moving average, they are both stopping up. And of course, if the red goes above the blue, there will be another confirmation. So I think it looks pretty good right now, all right, because we have attempted to push higher. We have also broken a very key resistance level right over here. I talk about this, right? The 6150 to even the 6,200 level, right? Those are key resistance level that we've broken last month. Now they will be what we call very firm support. So I'm just going to draw this support line right over here. I think 6,200 is where we have been holding over the past 2 to 3 weeks already. Look at this, right? A couple of a bullish candlestick coming out right around the 6,200. In fact, there's a pretty good hammer, right? Pretty good hammer candlestick whereby buyers are coming out as we approach 6,002, and then we push even higher. We broke 6,003 and we are above 6,003. So maybe even, not even 6,002, maybe 6,003 would have come out as a little bit of a higher support now for the S&P 500 index. So not too bad. I think right now what is going on is that, with Trump introducing tariffs in April, we sold off because there's a lot of developments over the past 1 to 2 months in terms of trade deals being made. There's one deal made with Japan. In terms of the European Union as well, there was a trade deal being made as well, 15% tariffs and stuff, right? So tensions between the US and China has cooled off. That's not so much in the kind of like in the news right now, because it's kind of like de-escalated to a certain level. Whereas in April it was like all the way full blown kind of like a trade war, a tit for tat trade war. But now I think that has kind of like taken a side seat already, all right, whereby people are focusing more on trade deals being made and stuff, right? So I think the market is definitely a little bit more bullish. All this has really been priced in, and of course there's some strong corporate earnings coming out from many of those big companies as well, right? And that's the reason why the S&P 500 has been pushing even higher. So what I can do right now is I can turn on the trailing support, right? So this trailing support, it's a very powerful feature of my One Good Trend Pro indicator, and you can see that when we got the first 1GT bullish signal, right, the trailing support has popped up and it follows the market as it moves up. All right, but follow doesn't mean follow like too closely, right? You follow it, you give it the space to breathe, you account for the volatility of the market, and you follow it, right? So it's been following up, flat, follow, flat, follow, flat, follow, and now it is right over here, somewhere around that 6,200. In fact, it coincides with the 6,200 that I've drawn, right? So anything above 6,200 or maybe even above 6,300, I think it still looks bullish. There could still be more leaks to this rally. All right, so this is what I call the S&P 500 index. Still looks pretty bullish right now. All right, okay, so now let's go ahead to talk about the stocks, the US stocks that you guys want a quick opinion on, right? So I know some of you have already typed in the chat the US stocks that you want. All right, so yes, going to type in the chat right now, guys, the US stocks. Let me just go through very quickly. So how it works is this, right? I will go ahead to pick one stock. I'll pass on the mic to Z, and we'll just pass on to each other very quickly. We try to cover 15, 16, maybe up to 18 stocks today. All right, we'll do our best, and at the end, we'll cover two. Maybe we'll share with you 2 stocks that we like, right? And you can put in your watch list. Okay, Ken? So let me go through the chat and see what is good, right? Okay, we have M, right? Okay, very good. So guys, take note now, right? When you type in the chat your US stocks, right? Whether it's Apple or NVDA or anything, doesn't matter, right? Give us a little bit of context, right? Give us a little bit of context, like exactly what M is doing right now, POWL, and that's why I chose your stock, right? Because you give us a bit of context. Are you looking to buy? Are you looking to sell? You bought last year, what price? Just give us a bit of context so that when we go through the stock, we can kind of like cater it, all right, and advise according to the context that you give it. But if you just like POWL, please analyze it. Can, but then what are you gonna do? Right? I also have no idea, right? So that's the reason why I will cover this stock right now, because I think there's a bit of context. And let's go to cover POWL, right? I think that would be POWL Industry, right? POWL Industry, very good. Let's go ahead to cover POWL, POWL Industry. Let's go, right? So it seems like I've done a little bit of an analysis on this stock. Let's take a look at it right now from my One Good Trend Pro indicator. So you can see, right? Okay, let me just go to turn off just to keep it simple right now. And there we go, right? So this is POWL Industry. The code is POWL, right? So M, you're asking, right? Appreciate your insights into POWL as it went up 5% last night. Yeah, I think not too bad. It went up 5% in the opening hour. Got in at 207. 207. Well, not bad. 207 means you got in maybe 2 weeks ago, right? Somewhere around here. Not bad. Now 207, now 240. Sure make. Very good. Okay. Any immediate resistance level in the short term. So you got in, maybe, you know, hopefully you want to take some profit, maybe you can go up higher, then you take even more profits, right? So let's find out if you can go up even higher. Should you be too afraid to want to get out, or should you maybe just be a bit more cool, let it go up some more, all right, then take some profit? Let's find out, because I've got the context. So thank you so much, M, for the context. So as I said, guys, if you want me to go to give you guys a bit of priority, right, and Z as well, then give us a bit of context on your stock so that when we analyze it, I think it's so much more powerful that way, right? So this is POWL industry. You can see that, well, we have sold off since 2024, right? From like 360, 300, 220, and we went all the way down to this support, I would say around the 150 psychological support level. And from 150, we were actually trading from 150 to 200. I mean, it's quite clear. Look at this, right? Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So it was just doing 150 to $250 for the past 4-5 months, right? Up and down. However, one fine day, right? Just last month, end of June, 27 June, we went above the 200 psychological resistance level. So that's a good sign, because we have got out to a higher consolidation phase, right? And the green 20 days moving average line right over here, that was actually going down, up a bit, down, and then flat, right? Flat, has started to point up as another confirmation in terms of the short-term trend turning up, right? So we broke the 200 psychological resistance. The short-term trend has turned up. We are still above the $200, right? So $200 would now, let me just turn this 200 to a green line, because 200 would now be a new horizontal support level. All right, so you have got in near 200, 207. So that's good. And I think anything above 200, 205, 203, 206, right? Those are pretty good entries. That's where we also saw a couple of a bullish reversal candlestick coming out. But let's see what could be the resistance level that we may see some profit taking potentially coming back. I would say somewhere over here, right? 300 would be one whereby it is a psychological resistance. That was where we saw selling previously in November. Same thing over here. In January, we end up couldn't stay above. We came back down. So 300 would be a psychological resistance. Before that, maybe right, a little bit of resistance at 260. That was where we saw some selling coming back. We went up, came back down below the 260 resistance. So I think right now it looks pretty bullish still, right? Any immediate resistance about 260, 300, that could be where some selling might come back. If you want to take some profits near 260, near 300, nothing wrong, perfectly fine. But my take is that I think it still looks pretty bullish, right? And of course, right now what we could do, right, is to turn on the 1GT Pro indicator as another confirmation to see if there are any bullish or maybe even bearish signals. So let's turn it on. 1, 2, 3, pump. Let's go. What happened? You can see we got a new 1GT bullish signal on the 27th of June, right? As we kind of like broke above the 200 psychological resistance, right? So not too bad, right? This bullish signal is in play, is another confirmation, right? It's another confirmation. So unless we see like a bearish signal, like a red color signal coming out, I don't know where it might be here, or maybe it might be 400 as well, right? Nobody knows, right? But once that comes out, okay, then that would be a sign where we are seeing a bit of selling, right? We have broken through the trailing support. Let me show you the trailing support. So this is a trailing support right over here, right? That's popped up, I would say, right? So you can see this trailing support that's popped up is beginning to follow POWL industry as it moves up. It is somewhere around that 204, 200, because it just started to move up only, right? So if prices would go even higher, this trailing support will follow it to move up even higher while giving it the space to breathe, right? So as long as you stay above this trailing support, that would be another confirmation, right? So this is POWL industry, not too bad. Resistance to take note, 260, 300. I think it still looks pretty bullish as long as you stay above 200 or maybe even above 220 right now. All right, so let me pass on the mic to Z to cover the next US stock.
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, let me just share my screen very quickly over here. So I think the next stock that I'll be covering is from Nelson, right? Hi, Nelson. Nice to see you here today as well. So you're saying that you are still holding on to UNH, right? So UNH, I believe, is United Health Group, and you are thinking, should you actually sell, right? So let's take a look at this stock right over here, right? So UNH, as you can see over here, the stock price have really dropped quite drastically since like April right over here, right? And Perhaps a little background story as to why it actually dropped, right, is because last year, the company actually highlighted like growing medical costs, and the thing is that there was also towards the end of the year, if I remember correctly, there was also like a shooting incident, right, of the CEO of the company, and then there was like public anger towards like medical insurance companies, and all the frustration towards the US healthcare system, and shortly after we are seeing that the stock price actually plunged lah, because there's a lot of noise surrounding this company as well. And let's take a look at this stock in terms of what are some of the levels, right, Nelson, that perhaps you can consider to monitor as well for yourself, all right? Because what we are actually seeing now, right, in terms of trend, right, first thing we always look at trend, right? In terms of trend, definitely long-term trend wise, blue and the red is actually still pointing down, right? And if I were to zoom in a little bit more and we were to see the green line, which is the short-term trend, right, it was going down, right, but it flattened out, but now it is starting to slope down as well. So not so good lah, not so good in terms of the trend. And if we were to just look at the 1GT signals, what do we see? We see two consecutive 1GT bearish signal as well. And that's also not so good, right? Not so good because price, okay, let me just see, from here to here, the lows, right, price have dropped more than 50 over percent. Okay, because now I'm not too sure where you actually where do you actually bought this stock, and I'm also not too sure what is your trading plan for this counter, right? Because before you actually enter into any stock, it'll be good for you to actually have a trading plan in place, right? To think about where entering is one thing, right? Buy is easy, but think about where potentially could your stop loss be at, right? If prices were to continue to go down, where should you get out, and potentially where should you exit if prices reverse back up and towards the targets level, right? So as you can see here over the past few months, right, price actually dropped and it kind of stabilized a little, right? And what we can see is at this level 250, right, I would say 250 is one of this level right over here that we can actually see buying pressure actually returning. And solely based on this candle right over here, we see a very long lower shadow, right? And the long lower shadow near a support level, near a psychological level such as 250, right, indicates that buying pressure actually returns, right? Because that's where buyers actually come in to push the price back up during the trading session. That is why we are actually seeing a long lower shadow, right, near this support. So I would say 250 definitely is one of the key support that you might want to take note of. Okay, take note of, set some price alert around this level, because if prices were to continue to move sideways downwards and it actually breaks below this 250, I would say definitely you want to be a bit more cautious for this stock, because what is the likelihood of the price going back up, not as much as the price going down, right? Because we know that the longer term trend is definitely still intact, it's definitely still down, right? It's definitely still down. And if let's say, I don't know, because if you actually bought in somewhere around here near the support, great, right? And you're thinking about getting out, somewhere near this 325, right, this level near the resistance right over here, this is where you can potentially consider to actually take some profits, right? And just get out of the position first and can monitor this stock for a bit more before thinking about entering, because we don't want to be buying against the trend, right? The key thing is you want to buy with the trend. But right now, this particular counter, it seems like it is in the downtrend, right? Definitely long-term trend is down. And what I'm monitoring is definitely this 250 level. So for Nelson, perhaps these are the two levels, right, that you can set some price alert on. And if prices were really to break below the 250, that's where you want to be a bit more cautious, can consider, to reduce some exposure for this counter, all right? So that would be for United Health Group. I'll pass the time back over to Joey to cover the next stock.
All right, thank you so much, Z. Right, so yeah, I think what Z has mentioned is very powerful as well, guys. Right, take note, right, when the trend is down, right, when we got bearish signals coming out, the long-term trend down, short-term trend down, right, then we try not to think about buying, right, because you are kind of like going against the trend. Does it make sense, right? So why do you want to go against the trend, right? Why not get in when there are signs of a reversal? All right, so that's what we definitely don't want to do. We do want to go against the trend. All right, so that's the whole point about my one good trend strategy. All right, so let me go to cover right the next stock, and that would be a very popular stock that I get asked quite often on, like Jesse, right, asking about NVDA. Now on you asking about NVIDIA as well. Energized Boost, still can add more. NVDA, all right, NVIDIA. Same thing, Grace, NVIDIA can buy at 172, not 1.7, 172 lah, 172. All right, so we're going to cover NVIDIA right now, but I want to answer this question, right, I think by V Power first. About the 1GT, if you are a long-term investor, do you make decision based on daily or 4 hours? Well, the answer is that whether you're a long-term investor or short-term for us, right, for the one good trend strategy, we focus on the daily candlestick bar, right? It's a swing to position kind of trading strategy, all right, whereby we can hold on to our position couple of weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. I mean, depends on how high the stock can go down, right? Then if you go up even higher, even better, right? So it's more of a swing to position trading, right? Not really a day trading strategy where you buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell within one day, you buy 10 times, 20 times the counting. Every 5 minutes you buy and sell. No, right? It's not that, okay? So back to your question, whether if you're a long-term investor, well, I think you could look at a daily candlestick bar like what we're doing, and it can help you as well time your entry better, right? Because you might be going in and buying for the longer term, right? You might tell me that, you want to keep for 5 years or 10 years, right? Fundamentally, it's a very good stock. No problem. Good stuff, right? Good stuff. But if it's a long-term, fundamentally strong stock, right? But in the chart, it looks like there's some weakness in the short term. It looks like we have some bearish signals. Then why not wait until it starts to reverse? Then you get in on that fundamentally strong stock lah. Does it make sense so far? All right. Like for example, this is NVDA, right? So let me go back to your question. Like NVDA, which you want to cover right now. If I can turn on very quickly my one good trend pro indicator in terms of the bullish or bearish signal, right? So NVIDIA could be a long-term holding stock. You want to keep for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. You believe in the whole AI story, all right? It's a leader in the entire AI space, providing the GPU units that many of those AI companies need, data centers need, right? So it's a long-term play, right? However, since January and February, we have got bearish signals coming out, right? So it's like about 150 then. And we got bearish signal coming out. So you might think that, it's a long-term play. I want to buy and keep and hold. Yeah, I can. But then we got bearish signal. So why, do you want to rush to get in, right? Maybe you could let it stabilize, let it go down. You cannot go down anymore. It stabilized a little bit. You find a bit of a bottom. And you see a new 1 GT bullish signal coming out. And that was on the early of May, 7th of May. Then you think about getting in to ride the reversal, right? To ride the 5-10 years kind of a long-term position. Does it make sense about? All right, so that you're right, not just fundamentally, but technically you kind of time your entry to get in at the right price, right? At the right time, right? To fully maximize your profits. So I hope that answers your question, right? In terms of a long-term investor. So we have many people, many of our graduates asking us, well, hey Joey, I'm a long-term investor, right? Does it still work for me, right? Does your strategy still work for me and stuff? Definitely, right? Don't you think that it will make a difference even if for the longer term position for 5-10 years kind of a fundamentally strong stock position? Do you think it will make a difference if you're able to time your entry and exit better for that stock? Definitely, right? Okay, so let's go ahead to talk about NVIDIA. All right, let me go ahead to pull out Grace. Grace asking about NVIDIA. Can you still buy at 172? So very quickly, NVIDIA, you can see that we have a couple of bearish signals. The 1 GT bullish signal that came out in May. We got the green 20 days moving average line. It was pointing down. It represents the short-term trend. It was flattened out. We got a bullish signal. It started to turn up as another confirmation, right? And all the way, it is still pointing up right now. So I think the short-term trend, obviously, it is still up, right? In fact, 2 weeks back, 1 month ago, we talked about it. I mentioned it's up. You can take a look at the replay. And it is still up right now, all right? So there could still be more upside momentum as long as we stay above some of those key support levels. So my take is that I can draw what we call a horizontal support level right over here. It used to be about 150, but I think now that's gone up to 160 or maybe at about 165. It seems like some bargain hunting has already came out near the 165 all the way to 175 to 180. That could be a near-term resistance whereby some selling has came out over the past week. But overall, it looks okay. And if I can quickly turn on the trailing support, right? One of the very powerful features of my One Good Trend Pro indicator, you can see, right? Since May, all right, about more than 2 months, in fact, almost 3 months, right? We have been holding very firmly above this upward moving or following trailing support. Follow, it goes up, you follow, right? And this trailing support is right over here around the 160. So 160, 165, these are what we call support zones where bargain hunting can come back again, especially if the short-term trend is still pointing up. And of course, if you look at the longer-term trend, look at this, right? The red and the blue line, all right? they are kind of like both sloping upwards, right? Both sloping upwards. Of course, we want a rate to eventually go above the blue. That would be another confirmation that the longer term trend has turned firmly up as well, right? I think it would be even more bullish, all right? So I think that would be for NVIDIA, right? You can buy, but have a plan, I mean, the only thing is that it has gone up quite a fair bit already. I mean, compared to 120, 130, of course, it's a bit more expensive, all right? I mean, based on this bullish signal that have came out over here, you can see that we have gone up by about 54% in about 2 months. All right, how's that for you, right? So pretty good move, right? But the only thing is a bit more expensive, but doesn't mean expensive means cannot go up some more, right? As long as the support is holding, as long as all signs are pointing that is strong, there could still be more legs to this rally, all right? So what we like to see is that it pushes up maybe to 180 or maybe even up to 200, and then we see some consolidation, a bit of a sideways movement. That will be healthy. That will be what we call a sustainable, healthy uptrend. I think that will give it more legs to the higher phase. All right, so that will be NVIDIA. All right, Z, back to you.
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, so the next stock that I will be covering will be by Damien, right? Damien is actually asking about MicronTech, right? Can I get some thoughts on MicronTech? Got in around 108. Okay, so let's take a look at MicronTech right now, right? So as you can see, MicronTech actually for this stock, I think we have covered this with some of our clients some time back. So that's why there are some lines that are already drawn here. But let's take a look at this, right? In terms of trend-wise, right now for MicronTech, I mean, if we look at the moving averages alone, just purely look at the moving averages, we can see that the green line is actually pointing down, right? What does that mean? It means that there is definitely some short-term weakness, right? And in terms of the longer-term trend, right? Longer-term trend, okay, the 100 days, which is the red line, is actually gently pointing up, right? Gently pointing up, attempting to break above the blue line, which is the 200 days, which is not too bad, right? Not too bad. At least the longer-term trend is not showing signs of it actually pointing down. It's kind of like still going sideways. But is it in a strong long-term uptrend? Not yet, right? Because ideally what we want to see is like that, right? Green above the red, above the blue. But at this point in time, not yet. And very recently, what else do we see? In terms of signal-wise, we see a 1 GT bearish signal, right? A 1 GT bearish signal. But when a 1 GT bearish signal come out, it doesn't mean that the stock will crash, all right? It just means that there is more selling pressure returning to the counter. So it doesn't mean that, you buy already, the stock will go down and down and down. No, right? We still have to look at some of the levels and take note, what are some of the support levels, right, that perhaps you can take note of, right? So in terms of Damien, right, you mentioned that you got in around 108, probably somewhere around this support zone, right over here, because as you can see that this level, the 110, 109, this zone, right, is what we previously known as, right over here from April to August. It was actually what we call a support level, right? It broke down, and then from August all the way to June, this was actually a resistance, right? And then right now it is back to what we call a support again. So over the past few days, we actually see, price came down, retested this level, and now it actually rebounded back up. And as of last night, it closed at 111. So perhaps you're just sitting on a little bit of profit, right? A little bit of profits. But I think this is one of the levels that definitely, if you have gotten in near the support, that is a good mindset to have, right? To buy in near the support, but also think about like your potential stop loss plan, right? Your stop loss plan, it could be, probably 2 to 3% below the support level, right? Below the support level that you have drawn, to manage your downside, right? To manage your downside, because if the selling pressure continues, right, and what we actually see is prices unable to hold above this support zone, right? Potentially, where can we see price head towards? Probably towards this level right over here, around this 83, 82, 83, this level right over here, right? Because this was where the support was at for a couple of months, right? All the way from August to April, right? And this level, right, has actually indeed been tested 1, 2, 3, 4, near it right over here, right? So this 82, 83 would be the next support level that perhaps you can take note of if prices is unable to hold above this 108 to 110, this level right over here, right? And potential upside targets, what are we looking at, right? Definitely number one, it will be first target will be towards this 130, right? 130, because very clearly somewhere, late of June right over here, this was where we saw profit taking returning, right? Selling pressure came back, pushed the price back down, and we also saw a 1 GT bearish signal. But of course, what ideally, right, what would be great for us to monitor, right? I think there will be two things, right? Number one, if its prices can consolidate, right, and we actually start to see, this green line, right, now is pointing down, but if we start to see, kind of like flattening out like this, That's good sign in terms of the short-term trend stabilizing, right? Stabilize. That's one. And then secondly is that for this red line to actually cross above the blue line, right? That will also actually affirm the uptrend. And then if prices can actually break above this 130, potential upside targets that we are looking at would be towards this 100 and about 157, 158, because this was the previous high that it actually reached somewhere in the end of June last year. All right. So Damien, have a plan, have some price alert set up for this particular counter, especially some of the levels near the resistance where you can potentially take some profits, and as well as to manage your downside with a stop loss plan as well. All right. So that would be a very quick one for my contact. I will pass the time back over to Joey to cover the next stock.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to the next one. And I will cover the stock that would be asked by Winkit, right? Winkit is Google, Alphabet, uptrend intact. I have not bought. Thank you so much for giving us the context, right? I have not bought, but looking to buy, looking to enter, right? So seeing where could be a good zone to maybe time your entry to get in, or maybe don't buy, right? Maybe it's going down, right? So let's go to find that out in a bit. But before that, I want to go through a few questions. I think some of you are asking a little bit, right? Like Ian, will 1GT also work on weekly, monthly chart? Yes, you can do it on weekly, monthly chart, but it is mainly optimized for daily charts, right? That is the whole purpose of it. It's mainly optimized for daily charts, more swing to position trading. All right. So just to answer your question, and of course we have some question about the strategy as well from Rajan, right? Could 1GT be applied for any markets? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Any markets, right? Crypto, commodities, gold, crypto, Bitcoin, platinum, I don't know, whatever, right? Commodities, you can, right? Any markets, as long as there's a chart, there's a data for it, there's a price data for it. Yes, you could turn it on in a matter of seconds, get an opinion on what to do, right? So by the way, guys, if you want to find out a little bit more about the entire one good trend strategy, all right, and perhaps how you could have a tool or like an indicator like we have, right, the one good trend pro indicator, you can have one of those free trainings that we have next Tuesday, or next Tuesday evening. Z can place the link in the chat. So next Tuesday evening, guys, click on the link and you will come to this page right over here where I can register for my free one good trend webinar, right? So this is the page whereby you come to right over here, how to 3x your stock portfolio in 2025 with my proven one good trend strategy. The date is 29 July, next Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. sharp, we will begin, right? So these are the 3 secrets that will be reviewed. So we'll become like, sharing you guys. Now we are going through your US stocks, but are these really the top 1% of stocks that you want to look at, right? How then do we filter out the top stocks, right, to know when to even buy and sell them? Does it make sense? Right. So that's exactly what we'll cover as well. And how do we have a tool to just make it so much easier? No more emotions, no more second guessing. You know when to get in, and of course you know when to get out as well. So that's the link in the chat. Click on it, come to this page, register for next webinar next Tuesday, right? 29 July, Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Right. And that's where we share a bit more on the entire strategy, right? That's where we share more. Okay. I think we have one more question like POWL, right? A bit on the strategy. What do you do when 1GT show green less than 5 days later, 1GT reversal, we should hold from buying till we see another 1GT green? Wow, a bit confused. Okay, so essentially, guys, when we see a 1GT bullish signal, right, what happens is that there's just one confirmation. We have a 7-point checklist, and we want to get more confirmation. 4 or more confirmations, that would be a good move to go ahead to fire to take the buy trade. Same thing, when we see a bearish signal, doesn't mean bearish means, wow, you're going to crash all the way down. It just means that there's some selling pressure coming back. Like you want to be a bit more cautious, careful, maybe don't go and buy first, right? But if we do see a bearish signal plus a few other things, that would be a confirmation that we are really going down. And that's where you want to be careful. Like this, like that. Look at this, right? This is what? Alphabet, right? GOOGL. Okay, let's go back to Alphabet, right? So Alphabet, maybe I can answer your question, right? So we see like a bearish signal over here, right? Yeah, that is the first sign of weakness. But then when you look at the short-term trend, there was turning up, all right, turning up. It was still okay. But when the short-term trend, the green line starts to turn down, and then you want to be careful already. Bearish signal, green line turns down, short-term trend down, we broke a support level, and the green line still points down, and we got another bearish signal, and it goes down even more. And that's where you want to be careful, all right? And of course, we got another 1GT bullish signal for Alphabet, GOOGL, all right? And that's a sign of bullishness. It's a sign of a potential reversal. But does it mean that because of this bullish signal, we just anyhow went buy? Not really, right? That is just one confirmation. It's good enough, right? It's good enough, but we want more confirmation to ride the reversal, to actually pull the trigger in terms of the buy trade being taken. What would be other confirmation? Well, There's quite a lot of it. As I say, attend one of those free webinars, and that's where we share a bit more. But one of it would be we want to at least make sure that the short-term trend has turned up in terms of the green line instead of like going down, turn up, right? And that has happened, right? You can see that has happened. There's another confirmation, and we started to push all the way up from about 150. I mean, let's show you, right? I think from somewhere over here, all the way to where we are right now, about a 26% in about 3 months, right? 26% in 3 months, right? So looks pretty good still, all right? We have gone up, right? We have headed towards some key resistance level whereby some selling is coming back, right? So back to your question, Winkit, right? Is Google uptrend intact? Well, I would say it is still intact. The longer term trend is sideways. As you can see, the red and blue line, they are pretty much sideways, all right? Only when we can break this level, then the longer term trend will potentially start to turn up very firmly. What is the level? Well, that level is none other than the 200 psychological resistance level. Look at this, right? Since last year, we have been kept below 200. Look at this. We neared it somewhere in July last year, about a year back, and we got a bearish signal. It came down. We went here again in January, in December, we got bearish signal, come back down again. All right. I'm not saying that the bearish signal will come out, right? But what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, that is a very key psychological resistance level, right? If we do get a bearish signal coming out, like, here, come out, all right, and then go, you see over here, it comes out, and then maybe, not saying that it will come out, but assuming, right, it does appear here again, a bearish signal come out, and then you want to be careful, right? You don't want to hold all the way down, because after a bearish signal over here, you can see it starts trading down, right? Same thing, it starts trading down, right? So if that happens, yeah, then you might want to be careful. But if that doesn't happen, right, if we approach the 200, maybe even attempt to break the 200, I think we would have a new 1GT bullish signal coming out, and it will be even more bullish. Targets could then be revised to 220 or even above 250 as well. All right, so that is a very key psychological resistance level. So if you're looking to buy, I would say that what we could do is to turn on the trailing support level right over here, 1, 2, 3, and there we go, right? You can see this trailing support has popped up. It followed Alphabet as it moves up, and it's around the 180. So if it does dip to near 180, 185, I think potentially some bargain hunting can come back again. So if you think about getting in a little bit, right, to ride it all the way to 200, 200 is key. That must give way for upside to happen, for the long-term trend to also turn up. And I'm watching that, right? I'm watching that. In fact, what we do is to set some alerts, like you can see, right? We can set some alerts at 203, pump, 204, 205, 206. We can set alerts like that, so that when it goes above 200, I want to be alerted. I want to see if there's a new bullish signal coming out. If there is, and we get other confirmation as well, that could be where it could be a more aggressive trade to ride even more upside. All right, so that is Alphabet. All right, so Z, back to you.
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, so let me just quickly share my screen over here. I think I saw a comment by Kunaf, right? Kunaf is actually asking about Microsoft. You bought at about 420, thinking whether should you hold, or you're thinking about selling, right? So let's take a look at Microsoft, right? So you mentioned that you bought at 420. 420 as of last night, price closed at 500. Then you're in the green right now, right? Let me just see. You're probably sitting on about close to more than 20% profits, right? That's great. Congrats, Kunaf. Congrats. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the levels, right, that perhaps you can take note of, right? So first thing first, uptrend definitely is intact, right? Since the last earnings result came out, prices actually gap up, and we actually saw that the short-term trend, right, actually pointed up very steeply. We get a 1GT bullish signal is definitely still playing out. We don't have a bearish signal yet. There's no exit signal yet, right? And plus the fact that when we take a look at the longer-term trend, we are actually seeing confirmation as well in terms of the uptrend, right? The red actually crossed above the blue line. That's great. And the green line is actually still pointing up, right? Still pointing up. So that's great, right? And very recently, we actually saw, price went all the way up, right? Well, all the way up, and it actually broke like this level, right? I would say $500. $500 is actually one of what we consider psychological levels, right? So I would say 500, this level has actually been broken, and it has been turned to what we call a support level, because right now price is actually still holding above. Last night closed at 510, right? And just 2 days ago on 23rd of July, if I were to just zoom in a little bit, we can see that this particular candlestick, right, despite it is red, the candlestick pattern itself is rather bullish, right? Because what we are seeing is actually a lower shadow, right? We see a lower shadow, and what does the lower shadow mean? When I mentioned earlier on near a support, it means that buyers actually return to actually support the price, right? And it actually happened near this $500 psychological support. So I would say right now, immediate support right over here will be 500, right? That's one of the levels that perhaps for some of you guys who are thinking of, perhaps thinking about entering a positioning yourself for entry, or even for kunaf as well, right? If you are thinking about increasing your exposure, not just thinking about selling, right? Thinking about increasing your exposure, since the trend for this counter is actually still pretty good, right? This is one of the potential zones that we can look at as well, near the $500 psychological support right over here, right? This is one of the levels that perhaps you can also set some price alert. So right over here, as you can see, the black triangle right over here, I already set a price alert somewhere about 504. That's what you can do as well, right? If prices were to return back to that level, that's where you can take a look at the stock as well and think about, your entry plan, right? Your entry plan, and including as well as your trading plan, which is your target and your stop loss, right? So in terms of targets wise, what targets are we looking at? So right over here, right, you can see the next target that we are looking at, right, would be about 540 right over here. And this is based on a simple projection upwards, right, like this, right? Okay. And the targets that we are looking at will be about 540. So if prices can actually continue to, consolidate and slowly inch up towards the 540, this is where we can also set some, this is also where we can also set some price alert right near this 540, maybe 535 to 540. And this is where could also be a potential sell zone that you could also be looking at, right? Because it is okay. I want to say it is okay, and there's nothing wrong to actually, take some profits near a resistance level, right? Near a resistance level. And where's that resistance level? Based on the projection up, it will be near the 540. But like what I mentioned, you don't have to just purely think about selling, right? Or think about holding. You can also perhaps, tweak your mindset a bit and think about, adding more position or increasing your exposure, especially if the stock is good. But it's not anyhow add, anyhow buy, right? Buy at whatever levels. But the thing is that, you want to buy near support level, right, to actually increase your exposure. Okay, so those are some of the things that perhaps you can consider as well. And those are some of the levels, especially, near the 500 and the 540, that you can actually set some price alert. All right, Kunal, I hope that helps. I'll pass the time back over to Joey to cover the next stock.
All right, very good. Let's go ahead to cover the next one. And that would be PayPal Holdings, right? PayPal Holdings. You can see PYPL right over here. Who's asking about it? Let me just go ahead to pull out your comments. I think we have, if I'm not wrong, Clement, right? Clement. Good morning, right? Good morning, Clement. Let's see, right? Good morning, Joey and Z. Looking to enter into PayPal. Thanks for giving us the context. I'm looking to buy at around $77 with current price above the 200 days moving average. All right. Okay. Any thoughts? So you're looking to buy, right? So let's see if this stock is even worth to consider to buy, right? So let's take a look, right? You can see that for PayPal. Well, if you ask me, like in beginning of the year in February, January, March, then I would say don't buy lah. Why? I mean, because you can see that we have not one, but we got two, we got three bearish, four bearish signals just coming out, one after and another. All right, and you see that the trend turned down in terms of the green 20 days moving average line started to turn down, right? Down for not 1, 2 weeks, for like 3, 4 months, all the way down, right? So if you're looking to buy then you have got it at $90 and then you become like $60 lah, right? So probably don't want to buy when you get bearish signals, when the trend is down, when everything looks to be weaker, right? However, you can see previously over here in July, different story. Last year, July, all right, we got a bullish signal. The longer term trend was up. The short term trend, the green line that was going down a little bit before that, started to turn up. And there we go, all the way up, right? A bit of profit taking, another bullish signal, and all the way up. All right. So it seems like now we are kind of like, doing this thing. You can like kind of like take from here. And I don't know whether can you like, copy and paste over here. That doesn't make sense, right? It seems like we are kind of like, doing that reversal, making our way up. We got a bullish signal previously. And now it seems like we are making our way back up again because we have not one, but we got two bullish signals appearing over the past 2 months. Look at this, right? The first one came out in May. We went up a little bit, a bit of profit taking. We came down, a bearish signal appeared as we broke the trailing support. But what happens? Over the past 2 weeks or maybe past 3 weeks, we got a new 1GT bullish signal coming out. All right. And let's see, right? The past 1 day, I think yesterday, right? Not too bad, huh? Not too bad. Let's see. You can see that for yesterday, we actually are attempting to break this resistance level, maybe somewhere around that 78 level, 78. Yeah, I think 78 would be a bit of a psychological resistance level. That was pretty much where we were July, about 3 weeks back, and we sold down. Same thing. It was a support previously, October. Support here, we broke down, went all the way down, right? So we have gone or attempted to go above that 77 to even 78, right? So it's only 1 day. It's only 1 day, right, Clement? So I think it looks bullish. Right? Maybe what you could do, is to wait for a few more confirmation, right? If you can stay above that 78 or maybe holding above 80, all right, the next few days or maybe up to next week or next week, I think that will be more confirmation that we are actually attempting not just to break a resistance, but to stay above this new support level. So what I could do right now is that this red resistance line, I could change it to be in green color, right over here, something like this over here, right? Anything above that 77, 78, if you can hold above, as I say, it's only 1 day, it's only 1 night, last night, right? Which is above lah. So it's okay, right? But if you have a few more nights of confirmation, it's staying above it, the support, and maybe some bullish candles coming out from 78 to 80 as well. All that will be signs of a strength, right? Sign of strength coming out, and signs of the reversal happening, potentially making our way all the way to 85 first. 85 would be where we were, right? Somewhere previously in December, a support 85, and then all the way to that 95, right? That would be where I would say some selling can come back again. So that would be for PayPal holding. I think he's looking at a pretty good reversal. We just need a bit more confirmation. But other than that, we got a bullish signal coming out. The short-term trend is up. It's definitely looking more bullish than bearish, as long as we stay above 77 or maybe a bit of allowance, 76. All right, Ken. So that is for PayPal holdings. Z, back to you.
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, so let me share my screen very quickly over here. Okay, so I think the next stock will be by Vincent, right? Vincent, I hope you are still here. You are asking about C, right? SEA, bought last year around 130 to about 140. So let's take a look at this stock, right? So this would be, the stock code I believe would be SE, which is for C Limited. First thing first, this stock in terms of trend wise, definitely long-term trend is intact. We can see that the red and the blue line, very beautiful, right? It has just been sloping up gently. And I mean, along the way, definitely, short-term wise, there will always be fluctuation, right? Up and down, as you can see over here. But generally, long-term trend still great, right? Long-term trend still great. And very recently, we also got a 1GT bullish signal not too long ago on the 17th of July, and currently there's no bearish signal or any exits yet. And in terms of the short-term trend over the past few months, what we are actually seeing, since June, it actually came down a bit, right? We actually got 1GT bearish signal, but like what Joey mentioned earlier on, right? It doesn't mean that the stock will crash. It just means that there's more selling pressure returning, and then after that, it kind of like flattened out. And right now, the 20 days moving average is just flattening out, which is okay lah, which is okay. It's not too bad. At least it's not like pointing down, right? It's not continuing to point down, right? And what we are also seeing is that, the price action, right? In terms of price action over here, 150, I would say, is one of the resistance turned to become what we call a support, right? Because previously, right over here, somewhere in March, end of March, I think start of March, right over here, right? This was where, price actually tested this close to near the 150, right? But didn't manage to break above it, came back down, went to retest the $100 psychological support right over here, and then prices rebounded and you eventually broke above this level, right? But of course, selling pressure came back in, retested this level, and right now it is actually still holding above the 150. As of last night, it closed at about 157, right? So not too bad, still not too bad, right? So in terms of immediate support level to note, I would say would be somewhere around this 150, right? Because since you mentioned that you bought at about 130 to 140, probably you're already sitting on profits. Let me see. So maybe 130 to 140 to where we are at now, you're probably sitting on about more than 20% profits, right? More than 20% profits. And in terms of you are thinking, where can you potentially take some profits, or where is the next targets that we are looking at, right? One of the very easy way, or one of the next target, the very obvious one, will be based on the range projection up, right? So as you can see, for the past few months, at the start of the year, this range, we projected up from the 150. The next targets that we are looking at will be 200. And definitely 200, if you think about it, the number, it is actually also a psychological resistance, right? So if prices can continue to hold above the 150 and inch up to the 200 level, somewhere near the resistance level right over here, this rectangular red box that I've drawn, it is also okay to take some profits, right? Partial profits, half position, that is also fine, right? But one thing that I wanted to bring up to you, right, would be this thing called the trailing support as well, right? Trailing support and resistance function. So if I were just to turn it on, right, so what Joey actually mentioned earlier on is that when price actually moves up, right, the trailing support will also follows the price as it moves up. And right now, do we see a trailing support? Yes, we do, right? Yes, we do. And the trailing support, if you recall what Joey mentioned earlier on, it actually accounts for what? The stock volatility, giving the stock room to actually breathe, right? And for this stock, do you think that the long-term trend is actually still up? I would think so, right? Because the red and the blue is actually still pointing up. And right now, the green has actually stabilized. So if the green line, if the price continue move like that and started to go up, the green 20 days moving average will also start to show signs of it pointing up as well. And do you think that, the trading support will continue to move up? I would think so, because like what we mentioned, the trailing support actually follows the price as it continues to move up. So one way for you is that, what you can do is also to actively protect your profits, right? To actively protect your profits. Like not just don't do anything, right? I mean, you can don't do anything, but what you want is you also want to actively protect your profits if prices continues to move up, right? So one way is you can make use of this trailing support and resistance function, and to make use of it effectively, right, you can use the trailing support as a guide, right, to actually place, your stop loss, right, to protect your profits, right, to place your stop loss and protect your profits. As it continues to move up, you can actually shift your stop limit order up as well to protect your profit as you continue to ride the uptrend. Okay, as you continue to ride the uptrend. So that's one thing that you can think about, and one thing that you can actually make use of if you actually have this 1GT Pro indicator, right? But for those of you, right, who do not have this 1GT Pro indicator and you're thinking like, how to get this Pro indicator, can attend the webinars that we actually just sent out with the links earlier on in the chat, right? You can actually take a look at that, because for this 1GT Pro indicator, as you can see right over here, there's a lot of functions, right? There's like the sell signal, buy signal, support, trailing, horizontal, position sizing table as well. But then we would like to invite you guys who are here, right, for the first time or not too sure what this 1GT Pro indicator is about, right? You guys can actually test drive the 1GT Lite indicator, right? You guys can test drive the 1GT Lite indicator. So the 1GT Lite indicator, you would not be able, to see the trailing support, but you will be able to definitely see the buy and the sell signals, right? The red and the green signals right over here, which can also give you an opinion on, whether is there more buying pressure, more selling pressure, gives you another layer of confirmation for yourself, right? When you are actually thinking about, your personal trading plan for any particular stock. All right. So I think Joey has actually pasted the link in the chat for the webcast, as well as for the 1GT Lite indicator for you guys to test drive, right? To just test it and see, how it actually works for you guys. All right. So I think that will be a very quick one for C Limited as well, Vincent. I hope that helps. I'll pass the time back over to Joey to actually cover the next stock.
Okay, thank you so much, Z. Right, so yes, guys, what Z has mentioned, right? You're going to find a little bit more about the entire strategy, perhaps how you could have access to the same, more advanced 1GT Pro indicator. Yeah, attend one of those free webinars. The link is in the chat. We have one next Tuesday, all right, 7:30 p.m. It's an online Zoom training. Attend it, and that's where we'll share a bit more of the entire strategy, right? But if you want to just test drive the simple version of the indicator, we have the light version, right? The light version. The link is in the chat as well. Click on it, check it out. And by test driving that light version, the 1GT light indicator version, right? That contains just the bullish and bearish signal. There's no other advanced stuff there. Well, you can guide you when to get in and when to get out as well, right? And for test driving it, you actually get more than $3,000 worth of bonuses of trainings for free, right? So check it out. Link is in the chat. Okay, so let me go on to the next stock. And this next stock would be right over here called Meta. All right, Meta Platforms. I think, hey, you're asking about Meta, right? Looking to add more on Meta stock. Potential to increase, right? So you are already holding, right? Add more means it sounds quite good. That means you already have it and you want to add more, right? Not like you just want to buy first time. Okay, good. So let's find out if it's okay to add more. What are some things you should take note? In case it breaks a certain level, you might want to be cautious because we may actually see some signs of weakness, right? So this is Meta. All right, very quickly, you can see for Meta, one of the pretty strong long-term uptrending stock, I would say, since 2023. In fact, not even 2024, since last year, you can see that the 100 days moving average, the red line, is moving up. The blue 200 days moving average line is moving up as well, right? Red above the blue, all right? Long-term trend has been up. Of course, in the short term, it doesn't mean it cannot come down. We did see a couple of weakness in the short term. We got bearish signal. It starts coming down, maybe 5%, 10%. Over here as well, that was in February, right? Even before the whole April tariffs, right? We got a bearish signal over here as well, right? And we started to sell down, all right? Another two more bearish signal came out and went down even more, right? So long-term trend up doesn't mean the short-term trend cannot come down. Then can come down, right? Came down from 750 all the way until 480. All right. So I mentioned just now, right? If you're looking to get in on Meta, all right, it's a fundamentally strong stock. You want to keep for 5 years, 10 years, fine. But if we do see bearish signals coming out, then we still want to be patient, right? Why we want to get in when there's signs of it going down some more in the short term, right? Why not wait for it to stabilize, wait for some bullish reversal signals to come out, like what we have seen over here in May, with signs of the short-term trend turning up, then you get back in. Does it make sense? All right. And that will be where you will not be stuck, buying as it goes down and down and down. And after you go out, you're back to square one. All right. But now, as you get in, as it reverses back up, well, that's where you truly maximize your profits. All right. And it's not just a fundamentally strong stock, but technically, you can't time your entry to get in. All right. I would say at a much better entry price. All right. So let's take a look at for Meta platforms. What is the key level you want to watch, right? Hey, just write it down. Hey, okay. This resistance is very critical, right? 750. We are right over here in February. A week later, we got a bearish signal. Down we go. The past 3 weeks, we have headed towards the same 750 psychological resistance as well. In fact, right over here, right, we kind of nearly touch it, and then we got a bearish candle, and we retrace back down from the 750 psychological resistance level, right? I'm not saying that, while we're seeing a lot of selling, and you will start to crash all the way down. No, right? It just means that 750 is a very key resistance level whereby normal to see some selling over here. And that's exactly what we are seeing over here. So if you want to lock in some profits, nothing wrong, because you mentioned you want to add more, right? So you bought earlier. I'm not too sure what price you bought, right? If you got in at 550, 600, then good luck, right? So nothing wrong to take some profit near 750, all right? 74, 73 something, 74 something, up to you, right? Nothing wrong, because that's where we have seen some profit taking coming back, all right? So if you have taken some partial profit, great. Then you could have more meat in the game, in terms of the balanced shares that you're still holding. Potentially, it breaks 750. We could have a new bullish signal to write even more upside. Right? Right, even more upside. I think that's where targets could be revised all the way from these range. Let me show you. Right, so that is the consolidation range, I would say. Right, maybe 680 or 700, all the way to 750. So you can extrapolate or project it upwards. I would say next target could be anywhere from 800 to 820. That could be the next upside. After 750, if we do break the 750 psychological resistance, right? So one thing you want to take note of is that, let's say you have taken some partial profit near 750. I say nothing wrong, perfectly fine, right? Because that's where we have seen selling coming back, right? And you have the balanced number of shares, right? What happens is that you want to take steps to protect the balanced number of shares that you have, all right? So what we can do that is that we could turn on the trailing support level, and let me just show you where it is. Right over here, can you see that we are still above the trailing support level that is just around 685? So this trailing support, as I mentioned, it allows the stock space to breathe. It gives the volatility space that it needs. As long as we are above it, we are fine. But if you go below it, and then not so good. We give you the space to to be above, and yet you go below it. That means something is wrong, right? We are definitely looking a little bit shaky already. But right now, we we are kind of like still above it. In fact, we saw a couple of bullish reversal candles as we approach the trailing support level, right? So if you can stay above 685, above 690, above 700, I think it still looks okay. So what could happen is that, if you're still holding on to the shares, right, have a plan to stop loss, to get out. If we were to go below 685 or 680, and that's where we would have a bearish signal coming out. We would see maybe a potential reversal back down, right? I'm not too sure whether it will be something like this previously in February, but when a bearish signal comes out plus a few more other confirmations, we could see weakness. All right, okay? So that is for Meta platforms, right? So if you want to think about getting in, let's assume like you got out near 750, 740, 730, you got out, right? And it does dip to near 685, 690, yeah? And that could be an opportunity to get in again, all right, at a slightly cheaper price to ride the reversal. But have a plan, right? Have a plan that you get out if a key support level will have been broken, and that will be the 685 to 680 support. All right, so that is for Meta platforms, META. All right, so let me pass on the mic to Z to cover the next stock.
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, so the next stock I think will be from Ray, right? Ray is asking about ZS. So that would be Z scalar. Ray, I hope you are still here, okay? So you mentioned that you actually bought at 188 last year. So let's take a look at it. As of last night, price closed at what, 284. You bought at 188. 188 somewhere around here. Okay, 188 somewhere around here. Oh, you're sitting on more than 50% profits. Congrats to you, Ray. But I hope you actually have some plan when you actually first bought into this counter lah. Because I'm not too sure what's your trading plan initially when you first bought at 188 last year. Probably somewhere, I'm not too sure where you actually bought it as well. Maybe somewhere October, right over here, somewhere, somewhere October, yeah, somewhere October, or it could be July, somewhere near the 188 level here, right? Yeah, I'm not too sure what's your plan, right? But right now, let's take a look at the trend, right? Let's take a look at the trend, okay, and what has been happening over the past few months. All right. So in terms of long-term trend-wise, that one I don't really have to cover much lah, because it's very clear. All of us can see that the red and the blue line is actually pointing up. Uptrend for longer term definitely still intact, right? But what is a bit more concerning lah, I would say, would be the shorter-term trend, right? The shorter-term trend, because what we are actually seeing is that yes, it did went up, right? From April, end of April, went up all the way, to somewhere in July, early July, it started to flatten out, and now we are seeing some signs of it pointing down, right? Some signs of it pointing down. That means that short-term trend-wise, not that great, right? And this has an additional confirmation from the 1GT bearish signal that just came out also not too long ago on the 16th of July, right? So like what Joey mentioned earlier on, it doesn't mean that the stock will crash. It just means that there's more selling pressure. And it is indeed, we are actually witnessing more selling pressure, right? Why? Because right over here, we can see that this level, this $300, like what I mentioned earlier on, sounding like a broken record, right? All these round nice numbers are what we usually call a psychological levels, right? And those are some of the levels that we can take reference from as to where people could potentially come in to buy or come in to sell, because those are very round and nice numbers, right? Psychological levels. So this level was previously actually broken, right? It was actually broken. Probably the earning results came out last quarter, right? Then it went up. It actually broke above the 300, tested it a couple of days later, but managed to hold above it, right? For the past month in July until it broke below this $300 level. And, selling pressure, the bears actually took control and it pushed the price down even more, right? So where can we potentially see price heading towards, right? I think one of the levels that we can actually take reference from would be the next support level, right? So as you can see over here, I think I've drawn at around 260. Why did I draw at 260 is because over the past years, based on the price action, the reference that we can take from, right? Somewhere in February, right over here, this is where we see that the price went to, right? But did it break the 260? No, it didn't, right? And subsequently, we get a 1GT bearish signal, push the price back down. And since then, we have been staying below this level until it manages to finally break above it somewhere in May this year, right? So I would say 260 will be the next support level, right? Next support level that I'll be looking out for, right? Because if it does continue to break below this 260, right, the longer term trend might not be so strong anymore. Like you might start to see, the red and the blue line starting to flatten out, or maybe it might even start to show signs of it starting to point out, and that's not so good, right? That's not so good. So the immediate resistance, definitely, because like what I said, 300 was previously a support. right now it turned to become a resistance. So if prices were to, hit back up to this near this 300, right, I would say there's nothing wrong for you to actually take some profits as well, because since you have bought at 188, you are sitting on more than 50% profits. Yeah, don't be too greedy, right? Can take some profits, partial profits. That's also okay, right? That's also okay to take some profits near the $300 level right over here, right? Then let me just turn on this trailing support and take a look as well, right? So yeah, right now, I mean, of course, we do get a 1GT bearish signal, and prices is actually trading below the trailing resistance, right? So just now, like what I've mentioned, right, this trailing support is a very, very good function, right? Because this is where you can actually use it as a guide to actually help you to protect your profits. Because you mentioned that you bought about 188, right? 188, so somewhere around here, 188, right? And when price continue goes up, this is where, like what I mentioned, to illustrate the example, this is where you can actually shift this red color stop limit order, right, upward as it continues to trail the prices, right? And maybe somewhere around here, you might have exited, right? You might have exited and you have already got up position, but you have actually secured how much? You have actually secured more than still 50% of your profits, right? Because right now, if you are to ask me, will the price continue to go up or go down? I wouldn't know, right? Will the price today open higher or lower? I also don't know, right? I also don't know. But the key thing here that I wanted to bring across is that you can actually make use of this trailing support function, right, to actively take steps to protect your profits. Because if prices were to actually reverse, right, maybe on this day there could be some news. I'm not too sure, right, because I didn't really look too much into the news for this company. I'm not too sure what actually happened, but sometimes the market it just dropped, right? It could be because of the news, market sentiments, or things like that, and that is where we are unable to predict, right? We will not be able to predict or forecast. But what you want to do is take step actively to protect it, so that in case of such things happening or prices were to reverse back down suddenly, at least your profits will also still be protected. And if you think that, wow, but then later the price go back up, all this, then how, right? The thing is that the market will always be here. There will always be opportunities for you to actually get in again, right? There's nothing wrong. And right now, like what we see, we actually have a 1GT bearish signal. So like what Joey mentioned, we want to have more confirmations, right? We are thinking about getting in. So why not wait until, we have another confirmation that there is a 1GT bullish signal coming out. On top of that, your moving averages are all pointing up in an uptrend. That's also not too late, right? Because that is providing you more confidence in a higher probability winning trade. Okay, I hope that helps for Zscaler. Sorry, it's a bit more in depth, right? But if you want to know more about this strategy and everything, like what Joey mentioned, just attend one of our webinars, the Joey's webinars, next week, right, on 22nd, and that's where you can actually find out more about the entire strategy. All right. So sorry, I digressed a bit, but yeah, that is Zscaler for you, Ray, and I hope that helps. I'll pass the time back over to Joey to cover the next stock.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, so the next webinar will be on 29th of July, all right, next Tuesday, 29th July, all right, and let me go ahead to cover the next one, and that will be Novo Nordisk. I place it on my chart, and I want to go through some of the questions that some of you are asking about, right? I think like we have, let's see, Yen, right? So a little bit of the strategy part. As I say, guys, today we don't have time to cover the whole strategy. I know some of you are a bit more advanced, right? Like Yen, for 1GT, typically, how many bullish candlestick do you see after the reversal, maybe after the bullish signal comes out, right? Before you actually go in, or to avoid any false reversal. It's not really about how many, all right? It's about what candlestick do we see. I mean, it could be 5, but 5 normal one, also no point, but you got one solid one, better, all right? So not really about how many, but what specific type of candlestick we want to look for after we get a bullish signal, of course, with a few other confirmations, candlestick being one of them. That would be a higher probability trade, right? As I say, Ian, at the time of those free webinars, the link is already in the chat somewhere above lah. All right, let me see. I think we have another question as well. Jessica, can you please send us the link to register? It's above already, right, Jessica? I think it's already above. It should be in the chat somewhere on top. Just scroll up. It's there already. All right. Jared, how to know if a stock is good and it gives assurance of performance? Do we have to do a comprehensive fundamental analysis, which I'm not inclined to? Is there a simpler way? Well, you can see that, guys, for the one good trend strategy, right, our forte is mainly on technical analysis, all right, TA, all right, looking at charts, looking at prices, trends, and all that. It guides us on when to get in and when to get out. That doesn't mean that fundamental analysis is not powerful. It's still important, all right. For me, it's very simple. I mean, if it's fundamentally strong plus technically strong, then even better lah, all right. But if it's fundamentally strong, very good, target price, what analysts write you are very beautiful, but then technically looks like crap, all right. Every day go down, then got bearish signal, you dare to buy? I mean, for me, no lah, right? No matter how fundamentally strong it is, but I see the chart got bearish signal and everything, then I think probably don't want to buy lah. Does it make sense? All right. So if you want to do it simple or the simpler way, right? Like Jared, I think as I say, attend one of those free webinars. That's where we share a bit more on the entire strategy, and hopefully it makes sense to you. And that's where perhaps you could even think about how you can have access to the same tools or the same indicator that we are using. All right, Ken? Okay, so let's move on to Novo Nordisk, right? VC, what price to buy Novo Nordisk, right? Start to turn up this week. So before we even talk about what price, we should step one step back, right? Should you even think about buying first? Don't talk about the price, right? Should buy first or not? Should buy, then talk about what price, right? So let's take a look at Novo Nordisk right now, right? I would say that for Novo Nordisk, right? Well, since last year, I would say a year back, well, we have been in a pretty good longer term uptrend, all right, since 2023, 2024. However, quite clearly, you could see that the longer term trend last year, all right, has started to turn down. We saw the 100 days moving average red line crossing down below the blue line. That's what we call a bearish crossover, whereby the longer term trend gets the confirmation that is going down. Red go down, blue go down, red below the blue. Not good. Plus, you look back 1 month ago, we got not one, but we got two bearish signals. All right. Of course, you look at the green line, obviously it's going down like nobody business, right? Down, flat down, flat down. All right. So it's been going down and down, right? As of today, I would say that the longer term trend is down. Quite clearly, it's still down. Look at the red and blue. I mean, they're both pointing down, right? Don't need to bluff yourself, right? The longer term trend is still down. In the short term, yeah, we may have found some support level. I would say around that $60. $60 was where, a couple of a bullish reversal candle. We rebounded. But just take note, right? We are kind of like against the longer term trend, because every time you can see, right? We rebounded a bit. In fact, we got a bullish signal, rebounded a bit. And then what happened? Sellers came back, down even more. Bullish signal, rebounded a bit. Bearish signal, down even more. Does it make sense? All right. So the longer term trend is still intact. We are still probably below this $80 psychological resistance. So if you are looking to buy, I would say that the upside may be limited, right? Now it's what, $70 right? So it's between 60 to 80. Does it make sense? So you are like in the middle, 60 to 80, you're like in the 70, like that, right? In the middle, right? So we normally try not to buy in the middle of nowhere, because I mean, it can go up, but also can go down. Does it make sense? So if you are really looking to buy, right? So for me, no, right? No buy, right? Why? Because first of all, the longer term trend is down. We don't even have a bullish signal. Does it make sense? All right. The short term trend, not really going up. I would say it's a bit sideways. All right. Why is it sideways? Well, because we are consolidating from 60 to 80, right? So there are no signs of me thinking about buying this stock, right? Because we are in the middle of the range as well. Between 60 and 80, we are at 70, in the middle of the zone. And that's where it could go up, it could go down. The odds or the probability or the upside reward is very minimum compared to the downside risk. Right. So if you're really looking to buy, so for me it's no, but if you really want to buy, maybe not at this price level. Maybe if it does dip to a 60 something, 62, 63, 61 over here, then you can consider at least there the upside reward is okay. It's okay, but doesn't mean it's good, right? It's just okay, better than in the middle of the 70 nowhere, in the middle of nowhere. Does it make sense, All right. So that is for Novo Nordisk, right? No bullish signals. Longer term trend is down. Short term trend a bit sideways, not really going up as well. A bearish signal is in play. We don't want to focus on stocks like this. We want to focus on strong stocks that are moving up. I think we have covered a few of them as well. All right, Ken. So that will be Novo Nordisk. Z, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Joey. Okay, so the next stock that I'll be covering will be by N, right? N is actually asking, what do you guys think about Unity, right? Unity. So let's take a look at Unity, right? So, and I'm not too sure if you're holding Unity or you are thinking about selling Unity or you're thinking about entering, right? I'm not too sure, right? I'm not too sure, but let's take a look at some of the levels, right? Okay, some of the levels that maybe you can take note of and maybe set some price alert or maybe even set some technical alerts, right? For the 1GT bullish or bearish signal, okay? So for Unity, right, if I just don't go too far, maybe you just see from 2024, right? We actually saw, the trend wasn't that great from 2024 all the way to 2025. It was basically kind of like in a downtrend, right? Because the blue is above the red and above the green, and they are generally pointing down. And over the years in 2024, right, we actually see all this 1GT bearish signal coming out. Then somewhere, after that, it kind of like just went sideways. The moving averages just kind of like keep crossing each other over the past months. December all the way to very recently, where we actually start to see the moving averages, right, giving us slightly more signals, right? In terms of, you know, where is the potential trend actually heading, right? In terms of the short-term trend, if I have to just, let me just zoom in a bit more for you guys, okay? So in terms of the short-term trend, we actually see, you know, yes, it did started to head up, right? I mean, sometimes it actually moves down, but it actually generally is heading up. And right now, it's actually still pointing up, right? And in terms of the longer term trend, the red and the blue line, yeah, it has been crisscrossing, right? But right now, we are seeing that, you know, the red is actually above the blue, and that's great. That's great, right? And both of them are gently sloping upwards, right? And plus, we actually get not one, but two 1GT bullish signal, right? The first one actually came out on 16 May, and the second one came out somewhere in the early of July, right? On this day, 8th of July, right? So we have two 1GT bullish signal, and the moving averages are not too bad at this point in time, right? And right now, as of last night, we actually see price close at about 33, right? 33. So the support, right? The support level, I would say the immediate support level, I would say would be somewhere around this 32 level right over here, right? Because previously, as you can see, prices actually broke above it, you know, and then for a few months, right? December all the way to March, right? This period right over here, it was actually a support before it actually broken down, you know, unable to break above it. You know, somewhere in February this year, it tried, right? Attempted, right? Like this candle right over here, near this level, but we see a long upper shadow. And this is different from the long lower shadow. So long upper shadow near a resistance, not so good, right? Because it means that there is more selling pressure returning. That's why we're actually seeing a long upper shadow, right? And subsequently, somewhere in July, right over here, um, that's where we actually saw price manage to break above it, right? Break above it. And now it is actually heading back. You know, profit taking probably happened, right? Heading back to actually retest this $32 level right over here. So I would say for this 32 level, this would be one of the levels that definitely can monitor, like can set some price alert. Because if prices were to actually break, unable to hold break below this 32 level, this is where potentially you might see more weakness actually returning back to this counter, returning back to this counter, right? But if prices is manage to, like, you know, hold, consolidate, and then slowly inch up, right? Potential upside target that we are looking at, right, would be towards this around this 44, right? Why did I draw this 44? It was because based off, you know, the previous price action right over here as well, right? Somewhere, you know, in December, right? This was where we actually reached near the high around 44 before we get a 1GT bearish signal coming out, right? So these are some of the levels that potentially you can actually take note of and set some price alerts as well, right? To see, you know, if prices is indeed able to hold above this $32 level, right? Then this is where we can potentially position ourselves for entry as well. Because why? Because we mentioned that, you know, when the trend is actually in an uptrend, at this point in time, it seems like a potential uptrend reversal, right? But we just need a bit more confirmation, right? We just need a bit more confirmation that it can really indeed hold above the 32 levels first. Because if it doesn't, then the 32 will become a resistance once again. And we don't want to buy near, you know, if it breaks below, right? We don't want to buy near a resistance. You want to buy near a support, all right? So I hope that makes sense. These are some of the levels that you can potentially set some price alert to notify yourself to take a look at this stock when it actually reached some of these zones, all right? So that would be for a Unity. I'll pass the time back over to Joey to cover the next stock.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to the next one. I think that would be this stock called ARK. All right, ARKK. All right. Good morning. All right. Can you provide some insight into ARK Innovation ETF? Right. The code is ARKK. Right. So take note, guys. Right. For the one good trend pro indicator, I mean, we have turned it on the market, on the stocks, but essentially, as I say, right, for any asset classes. It doesn't mean whether is it Bitcoin or crypto or FX or commodities or gold or silver or ETF like ARK. You can turn it on and get an opinion in seconds. So ARK Innovation ETF is one of those very popular ETF that actually track some of those top technology stocks. You know, I think it follows, Tesla is one of the holdings in ARK Innovation ETF. Roku, Coinbase, Roblox, Shopify, some of the top tech names. So if you want to go ahead to buy what we call an ETF that tracks some of those stocks, whereby you don't want to stock pick and start, right? You could actually buy the ETF, and to get in on the ETF, to be guided on entry and exit, same thing. You could have this 1GT Pro indicator to guide you when to get in and when to get out, right? So you can see quite clearly. I won't go too far, but for ARK Innovation ETF, every time we got bullish signals coming out with a few other confirmations. There we go, all the way up. All right. Of course, we got bearish signal coming out in February, 1, 2, 3, right over here, and down. We went all the way down from like 65 all the way to $40. But what happens over the past 2-3 months? Well, we got a new 1 GT bullish signal coming out. So every time, I mentioned that, you want to be patient, right? When you see a bearish signal, you don't want to rush. You want to wait for more confirmation. You want to wait for some signs, of it potentially moving higher in terms of a reversal. Then you get back in, right? So what exactly are you waiting for? Well, you want to wait for a 1 GT bullish signal coming out, plus the short-term trend that was going down for like 2 months starting to turn up as another confirmation. Of course, if you get another 1 GT bullish signal like what we got for ARK, there we go, right? We went even higher, even faster. All right, so now we are at 75.80. All right, so not too sure for you, Yung Chao. Are you looking to get in, or maybe you have got in for ARK, at $50-$60 plus, right? This if you are still here, maybe you can just share with us a little bit more. Are you looking more about buying, or a little bit more on like taking profits? Let me know, Yung Chao, if you're here, or maybe I'll just go ahead to analyze it. Are you here, Yung Chao? Right? Let me know. What is the thing that you want to find out about ARK? Are you looking to buy or sell? Right? Just to understand a bit more. Okay, maybe Yung Chao is not here. Okay, not to worry. All right, so let me go to analyze. So for me, it's very simple. I would say, looking to buy. Thank you so much, Yung Chao. All right, very good. So looking more about to buy, right? To buy ARK, right? Okay, very good. So let's see if it's a good time to think about buying ARK. So very simple. Short-term trend is up. We got not one, but we got 2 bullish signal. We can easily turn on the trailing support to see where we are. Well, very clearly, we are right over here around that $71. $72 to $71. So I think it looks bullish. If you're looking to buy anything on dips near 72, 73, 74, I don't know whether you dip, but if it does dip to those levels, that could be what we call bullish support zones, where some bargain hunting can come back again, all the way to the psychological resistance level. Quite clearly, that will be 80. You can see if we look at the past, there's pretty much not much prices. We are pretty much on the ATH all-time high. All right, so 80 will be a psychological level for now, right? Range 72, let's just keep it simple, 71, 72, all the way to 80, all right? If 80 were to give way, I think targets could be revised even higher, maybe all the way to 90 and even to 100, all right? So I think this ETF that track some of the top tech names are still in play. It still looks bullish, all right? Only if we do see a bearish signal, then you want to be careful. You don't want to buy, you want to be patient, like over here, right? If you see bearish signal, then you want to go and buy, then you get stuck, all right? But now, it still looks okay, right? It still looks okay. So you're thinking about buying, good. But take note, we try to time our entry near a pretty good support level. That gives us more reward for a downside risk. All right, okay. So that is for ARKK. Z, back to you.
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, so I think the next one that I'll be covering, right, will be Baba, right, from Styler. Hi, Styler. Nice to see you here today as well. Okay, so you are saying what's the trend going forward? Sell or hold? My average cost is $80. Okay, let me just share my screen very quickly. Okay, so I hope all of you guys can see my screen, and it is actually showing Baba. All right, so you mentioned that your average cost price is about 80. So 80, let's see, 80 to where we are at as of closing yesterday, around 50% profit. Not too bad, right? Not too bad. But you're asking what's the trend going forward, whether should you sell or hold. Let's take a look at some of the levels, all right? So first thing first, if I were to take a look at the moving average, right? Short-term trend-wise, we are seeing some strength returning, because we see that, over the past couple of days, right? The past week or so, the 20 days moving average has started to point out. We did get a 1 GT bullish signal. Not too bad, right? But then let's also take a look at the longer term trend, because we don't just focus on short-term trend. We want to focus on both short-term and long-term trend. And best scenario is for both to actually be aligned, right? If both are not aligned, then sometimes, it could be a big question mark, right? It could be a big question mark. But then that is where you want to take note of some of the levels. You can think about probably taking some profits as well, okay? Okay, so let's take a look at the longer term trend, right? So back to the longer term trend. The red line, which is the 100 days moving average, has been pointing up, and then it has started to show signs of it, going down, right? It started to show signs of it going down. So not that ideal, right? Not that ideal. And for the blue line, which is the 200 days moving average, it has been going up, but it has started to flatten out as well. But haven't go down yet, but started to flatten out. I'm not too sure if it will go down. If prices continue to go down and it breaks support level, definitely we will see more signs of the longer term trend turning back down as well. All right. Okay, so that would be for the trend, right? That would be for the trend. And in terms of the support level, right, as you can see right over here, I think one of the support level that I've already drawn would be definitely the $100 psychological support level. This would be, I would say, is one of the immediate psychological support level to actually take note of, right? Because this was where, the Trump tariffs actually happened, right? And this was where, the entire market actually dipped. And very quickly, it actually rebounded back up from the $100 level, right? And it went up, profit taking happened, came back down, and this is where we are at again, right? This is where we are at again. And one thing that I also wanted to highlight, right, is that since, the highs back, in February, right, to where we are at now, over these past few months, there's one thing that we can also kind of like spot, right, is that the highs, right, has kind of like, here to here to here. So it has kind of also been forming what we call lower highs, right? Lower highs. Plus the fact that we are actually seeing that the 100 days moving average, right, has also started to point out. So perhaps not that great, like in terms of the longer term trend. If prices is unable to break above the high and continue to go down, and it breaks the $100 support level, then definitely that's where you want to be a bit more cautious. That's where you want to be a bit more cautious, right? And if you to ask where is the immediate support, immediate resistance, right? Because just now we talked about the support level at 100, right? Immediate resistance, I would say right over here, right, somewhere near this 130. As you can see over here, this was where it was tested as a support level. This was where it was actually a resistance unable to break above, right? So if prices is actually able to head back up towards the 130, near the 130, right, near this immediate resistance, I would think that it is also okay, right, for you to actually take some profits realize the profits, put the money in your pocket, and can treat yourself to a nice meal, right? Because since you're already like 50% profits, sitting on 50% profit, so there's nothing wrong for you to actually take some profits near the resistance here as well. All right. So it doesn't mean that when we actually see a 1GT bullish signal, immediately you don't analyze anything, straight away enter the stock. Once we actually see the bullish signal, we still got to look at the bigger picture as well in terms of where's the resistance at, where is the support level at, and also in context of the price action, right? What is actually happening, right? Especially so right now when we are seeing that some weakness in the longer term, whereby the red line has also started to point out. All right. So Styler, I hope that helps in terms of some of the analysis, right, for this BABA, especially with respect to the support level and the resistance, as well as what are some of the things that perhaps you can consider as well for your particular stock, which is BABA. All right. So I hope that helps. I'll pass the time back over to Joey to actually cover the next stock.
All right, thank you so much, Z. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so let's see how many stocks we have covered already, right? So I think for those of you who are just joining us, I welcome guys to our Ask Me Any Stocks US session. We have covered a total of 14 stocks already. Let me just go through very quickly. So we will not be covering the same stock again. We'll try to cover maybe another 4 more stocks in a bit. All right, 3 or 4 more stocks. But I want to just go through what are the stocks that we've covered so far up to now, right? So we covered the S&P500 index right at the beginning. And the very first stock that I covered was POWL Industry, right? POWL. And then United Health, NVDA, right? Micron Tech, Google Alphabet, right? GOOGL, Microsoft, PayPal, C Limited, Meta Platforms, Zscaler, Novo Nordisk, Unity, ARKK, Alibaba that Z just covered. So now let's move on to the next one. And that would be NVIDIA, right? I think Jimmy, you're asking about NVIDIA. Until now, I'm holding, sorry, not NVIDIA, Palantir, right? PLTR, Palantir. Until now, I'm holding Palantir, PLTR at US $36 plus. How far can this stock go? Wow, congrats, Jimmy. $36, now it's $154. So 36, about almost 4 or 5 times already. So congrats. I think you got it maybe somewhere over here last year. All right, when we got bullish signals come out in August, we were somewhere around then about $20, $29, $30. So maybe going somewhere around here. All right, it's gone all the way up. Quite clearly, you can see that the longer term trend is up. It's been up since last year. It is still up. Red above the blue, 100 days above the 200 days moving average, right? And both of these lines are obviously still pointing up. So longer term trend is up. That is kind of like the first criteria that we want to have before even thinking about buying any stock. So you got the first step right? So longer term trend is up. It's good. Next thing will be we want to have at least some bullish signals coming out. All right. I mean, don't have two, then at least got one now, right? But for this stock, you can see that it's not too bad now. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 bullish signals coming out. The first one actually coming out 15th of April, right over here, right? So 15th of April, we got a bullish signal. Of course, previously in February, we got bearish, starts coming down from 120 all the way to 80, right? Green line also started to turn down, right? However, when the bullish signal came out in April, great. The green line, 20 days moving average that was going sideways, also started to turn up. It's still pointing up. I think it's still pointing up. Does it make sense? All right. So the short-term trend is still up. And of course, we got a couple of new 1 GT bullish signals coming out. The long-term trend, don't say they are up since January last year, right? So far it looks pretty good. So how far can this stock go? Well, the answer is that I don't know for sure. I don't know, right? Exactly. I cannot tell you we'll go to 200 by next week or what. No, nobody will know, right? But what I can tell you is that if we do break certain resistance, right? Yeah, potentially upside targets can be revised. So this stock is pretty much, I would say, at an ATH all-time high. If you look at the past, there's nothing much to see on the left side. So what we could do is a little bit of a projection as to where some selling can come back again in terms of the next potential resistance level. So you can do a bit of a projection of the current consolidation phase. You can see that it likes to consolidate, I would say, about $20 kind of range. You can see over here as well, a bit of a consolidation over here as well, right? Maybe, sorry, about $30, $30, $29, $30. So we could do a bit of a projection now, assuming we were to break this 160. So 160, I think that is definitely where some selling is coming back after 160, maybe all the way to like even 190 or even 180. That could be the upside targets, right? After 160 resistance is broken, right? So what I could do is the same thing, right? To turn on this trailing support line. So normally when we look at the trend of stock, right, we see bullish signals coming out. Well, we want to make sure that the trailing support has been pretty consistent, all right? As I say, this trailing support, it follows the stock, it give it the space to breathe. It has been following it since April, follow until July, all right? And we're still following it, right? Prices are still above the trailing support. So it looks pretty good still, right? Anything above this 135 or above 140, I think the uptrend looks intact, right? Can you still hold? Yeah, I think you can still hold. You want to take some profit near 160, nothing wrong as well, but I think overall it's still pretty bullish. All right. In terms of targets, well, if 160 break, as I say, 180 or maybe even 200, that could be next near-term targets. All right, Jimmy. So that is for PLTR, PLTR. Right, Z, back to you.
Right. Thanks, Joey. Okay, so I think the next stock will be from Jen. Right, Jen is asking, may I have your thoughts for BRK.B, Berkshire? Right, I bought about 480, wondering if I should buy more for midterm. Okay, so let's take a look at Berkshire. Let me just change the chart. All right, so I hope you're able to see my screen for Berkshire, and this is how Berkshire is looking, right? So Berkshire actually has been one of the very, very good stock that has the uptrend has been very, very strong, right? Over the past years, if we were to look back, right, it has been very strong, uptrend going up, and somewhere, at the start of this year, right? Not start lah. Maybe at the end of Q1, right? This was where we actually saw some movement in this stock, and right now it is where it is today, about 480, right? So it's very near where you actually bought into this stock, and the reason, primarily why this stock has kind of like dropped, right, is also due to because Berkshire Hathaway is very, very closely tied to Warren Buffett, right? And because Warren Buffett also announced his retirement, right, as a CEO, even though he still sit on the board of director, but then because of that, it trigger like the market to actually take a to absorb this news, right? And prices actually primarily decline due to that reason, because Buffett is no longer the CEO, right? It's no longer the CEO. So where we are at right now, right? If we are seeing that the support level, right, for this Berkshire Hathaway, this BRK.B, this stock, right, I would say one of the immediate support level, right, that we can take note of, right, will be somewhere around this 465, maybe close to 400, even 470, right over here, right? Because this was where we actually saw buyers came back in to actually support the prices, right? Number one, definitely it will be on this very day, right, which is the 7th of April, the tariff day, right? On this day. And number two will be not too long ago, somewhere at the start of July. This was where we actually saw buyers coming back in to actually support the prices at about 470, right, around this level, which is, I would say, one of the support zones, like one of the support zones that perhaps you can also set some price alert as well, okay, in terms of accumulation on dips lah, okay. But in terms of resistance, I would say definitely $500 would be one of the psychological resistance, right? Because if prices, were to actually go back up to $500, if you were to ask whether can you actually take some profits, or should you continue to hold, or sell some stock, I think it's fine to actually take some profits near these $500 as well, because there's nothing wrong to actually take some profits near a resistance level, and if prices can actually continue like this, consolidate, right, and it actually inch up higher and break above the 500, provided that it break and hold above the 500, right, then potential upside targets that definitely we are looking at would be towards this 540 level right over here, right? And plus the fact that right now we don't see a 1GT bullish signal, right? We actually see a 1GT bearish signal. So in terms of thinking about buying, thinking about where can you potentially accumulate for more positions, right, to increase your position, and whether you should actually buy more, right, I think it is okay to be patient, right? Okay to be patient and wait for more confirmations first, because the thing is that right now, if we take a look at the moving average, right, short term green line pointing down, right, definitely pointing down, that one I don't need to say, it is even below the red and the blue line, and the red line is actually also starting to show signs of it, gently sloping down as well. So I would say, in terms of if you are thinking to actually really accumulate on these positions for your long-term, mid-term to long-term holding, right, it is okay to be a bit more patient and to wait for more confirmation first, right? Especially you want the longer term and the shorter term to align, then you get in. That is also not too late, right? That's also not too late. So I would say for now, perhaps what you can do is you can actually set an alert, right? Set alert. So just now I talk about price alert, right? So right now, for this particular case for Jan, right, perhaps you can consider to set a technical alert. So same thing, right click. Apart from choosing price, I can actually choose this One Good Trend Pro, right? And I want to choose a buy alert, right? So buy alert, same as chart, once per bar, create. So what I've done is that, if there is another 1GT bullish signal coming out, I will be alerted, all right? And that will be when I can actually go and take a look at this stock again to think about, where would be actually good for me to actually enter or position myself for entry, because you don't have to rush, right? You don't have to rush. But near the support level, I would say near a support level is a good reference area that you can take note of. But key thing that we want here is to have as many confirmations as possible so that we are on the right side of the trend. Okay, so that would be for Berkshire Hathaway. I'll pass the time back over to Joey to cover the next stock.
Okay, very good. So guys, I think we have gone on for almost, I think more than 1.5 hours already, right? So let's just go on to talk about two more stocks. There's two more stocks to cover, two more stocks. And then at the end, we'll share two bonus stock that me and Z like that you can put in your watch list. So first thing first, guys, our apologies if we cannot cover all the stocks. So I think today, after covering two more stocks, that would be a total of 18 stocks. There's more than 50, 60 stocks. I just did a count, right? So same thing, guys, our apologies if we cannot cover all of them. Hopefully, you guys will be able to attend the free webinar that I mentioned next Tuesday. You can have access to the same tool, right? The same tool, the 1GT Pro indicator, and very quickly allows you to have a quick opinion as well, right? A quick opinion as well, right? Okay, so let's go on to cover the next stock. And I would say that would be by Wekong, right? Wekong. May I know your views on ISRG or ISRG, Intuitive Surgical? I'm a long-term investor. So this is ISRG right over here, right? So I think for ISRG, well, since last year, I would say that the longer term trend has been quite okay. I mean, look at this, right? We have a couple of bullish signals, goes all the way up, bullish, went all the way up. And the red and the blue line has been pretty much pointing up, right? So longer term trend has been quite firm from last year all the way until, I would say, this year, beginning of the year, where we started to see a bit of a profit taking, all right? We got bearish signals coming out. It went all the way down in April, March. Same thing, all right? Now it seems like We got not one, but we got two bearish signal coming out. So Wiggle, I hope you're still here, right? So you can see that we got two bearish signal coming. In fact, last night, we kind of like broke below the 500. So I think this 500 is very important. Now look at this 500 is what we call a psychological support level. It was a resistance, we went all the way up. Same thing, we broke down the support. For the past 2 months, we've been holding above 500. But yesterday night, right, we got a new 1 GT bearish signal, and we got below 500. I mean, it closed at 488, which is below 500, right? So just want to be a bit more careful. All right? I think in the short term, all right, there are definitely some signs of weakness as we may push lower towards the next support level. And that could be anywhere from 420 to even 440. I think that was where we were in April when Trump introduced the tariff. So that could become like the downside. I'm not saying that you actually go there, but we just look a bit more weak, all right, a bit more weak below 500. You just want to be a bit more careful. Plus, we got bearish signals coming out. Plus, let's take a look at the green line. Whether is it pointing up or down? I would say that the green 20 days moving average line, it was like up and then down. I think now also, it is kind of like sloping down a little bit as well. If I can just turn off the signal so it's like hidden behind. Let me just show you, right? Quite clearly, the green line, 20 is moving, it's starting to just point down. So just a bit more careful below 500. We just look a little bit weaker, right? So that's the short-term trend, right? Now let's go back to your question, right? You're looking at the long-term trading position because you're a long-term investor, right? So just take note. Right? Normally, we are a little bit more cautious if there are signs of the longer-term trend turning down as well. So short-term trend turn down is fine. I mean, if the longer-term trend is very firm up, then short-term you come down, you see a bearish signal, still okay lah. I mean, just that you will go down, then maybe a certain level, and then buyers will come back, and then you will start to reverse, right? So that's still fine. But if there are signs of the long-term trend also starting to turn down, and then we would want to pay a bit more attention, right? Because it's not just about short-term trend, right? The longer-term trend is coming, signs of it coming down as well. And you can see right now, well, the 100 days moving average line, the red line, has kind of like crossed below the blue line, right? So red going below the blue, slightly not so good. Like not say it's going to crash or what, just that there are some signs of the longer-term trend potentially starting to turn down, all right? So red below the blue, all right? Both of these two lines, red is down, blue is still sideways, but if both of these two lines start to point down, then you want to be careful, all right? In terms of the red line, let's say it's like, going down like this, assuming we stay below 500, and we don't push higher, we form a new resistance, the red line goes down like that, and the blue 200 days moving average line now is flat, all right? Maybe it might just start to point down like that. Red and blue both pointing down. Let me put to blue color. Then you want to be careful. That means now we get the confirmation that the longer term trend is also down. Then plus you're a long-term investor, then a bit opposite, Does it make sense, All right, so that's one thing you want to watch, right? So I think for into this surgical, right, we still need a bit more confirmation that it's not happened yet. But if it stays below 500 and we get more bearish signals and all that, then want to be a bit more careful. All right, Ken. So that is for ISRG, right? Z, back to you to cover the last stock for today.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Joey. Okay, since this is gonna be the last stock before we share our bonus stock, right? I think I'll be covering this stock, right, by M, right? M is actually asking about Philip Morris, right? Because it's actually one of our bonus stock from our previous session, and it has come under selling action due to miss earning. Any thoughts moving forward? Great question, right? Because it was actually a bonus stock, and I think it'll be good for us to actually cover the bonus stock as well to give you guys an update, right, on what actually happened. So yeah, like what M has mentioned, definitely because of the earnings, right? Let me just zoom in, because of the earnings on 22nd of July, market didn't take the earnings news too well, and it has definitely gapped down, right? And we did see a 1 GT bearish signal, right? So, but it doesn't mean that the stock is not good, right? It doesn't mean that the stock will crash, or it just means that there is more selling pressure returning back to this counter at this point in time, right? But we also need to take a look at some of the other things that we always check out for, especially within our 7 points checklist, right? Like what Joey has mentioned earlier on. So if you want to know more about the 7-point checklist, do attend one of the upcoming webinars that Joey is actually having the next week. All right. So let's take a look at the trend first, right? Let's take a look at the trend first. So if I were to zoom in, let's see. Okay, I hope you guys can see all the lines. The red green and the green, red, and the blue lines right over here. Those are the moving averages, and those are what we actually use to actually take a look at, have a gauge of the trend, right? The short-term trend and the longer-term trend. So definitely short-term trend is pointing down, like the green is actually pointing down, right? Because of the earnings results. And the red and the blue line. Okay, the blue line, it is definitely still pointing up, right? 200 days moving average still pointing up. Nothing to say about that, right? Still great. And the red line is still pointing out, but is it going to flatten out? I'm not too sure, but it is starting to show a bit, right? It's starting to show some signs of it, like flattening out, right? It is not as steep as the blue line, right? But at least it's not pointing down like the green one, right? And over here, based on one of the past bonus stock sessions sharing that we actually had, right? Over here, you can see that, one of the support level that we have drawn is right over here at the 160, right? 160. So I would say 160 is actually one of the support level. And over the past few days, we actually see, price, even though it get down, yes, but it is kind of like still holding above the 160. So far, I only have about 2 days worth of data, right? 2 days worth of data. But hopefully over the next couple of days, or even a week or so, right? The more times it's actually tested, the more times it tests this 160, the more times it actually hold above it. I think that will be a good indication or good sign that this 160 is one of the key support level, right? To actually take note of. And this, if that actually happens, this is one of the levels that potentially we can actually accumulate on the dips as well. Because what happens is if prices continues like this, right? The 20 days moving average now is actually pointing down, right? Because of the huge gap down, and we are seeing red candlesticks, right? We are seeing one GT bearish signal. But if it does consolidate sideways and the 160 support level is actually able to hold, what we will see in the short-term trend will also be that the 20 days moving average will no longer be pointing down. Like it will kind of like, sideways. At least sideways is better than it pointing down, right? And that also gives you a confirmation that, this 160 support level is actually indeed holding. And that's where we can potentially consider to accumulate on the dips, right? And in terms of the resistance wise, definitely it remains the same. There's no change in terms of resistance. It's still here about 185. And based on the drawings previously, this is also one of the levels, the red box, right? Is one of the levels that, because it's near resistance, if prices can head back up to this 185 level, this is where we can also consider to potentially take some profits. But of course, for whatever reason, if there's some like great news coming back up, or something regarding these news that can be acting as a catalyst, right? We cannot predict those kind of stuff, right? But if that actually happen, and if price can actually break above the 185, potential upside targets, right, that we are looking at will be towards 200, right? So that will be the next higher upside that we are looking at if prices can break and hold above 185. But first and foremost, I think now the crucial thing for us to take note of would definitely be the 160 support level at this point in time. All right, and of course, set an alert. And for this particular case, definitely I will also prefer to set an alert apart from the price, apart from the 160, that price level. I will also like to set an alert for the one good trend technical alert, right? So this one, I don't just want to set buy. I want to set both, right? Buy and sell, just in case if the prices continue to dip. At least, I do get alert that, hey, it is not so good right now, right? So let me just do that and done. Right, so that would be a very quick one for Philip Morris, right? I hope that helps and give you guys an update about the previous bonus stock, right? So now I'll pass the time back over to Joey to actually, start sharing our bonus stock for today.
All right, thank you so much, Z. All right, thank you so much. Let's go on, all right, to talk about the bonus. But before we go to that, guys, let me know, guys, based on what we have shared so far, how many of you have got value, this type of V, guys, type value, V for value. If you have got value so far in terms of what we covered, in terms of the stock that you asked, you got a better understanding on some of the key levels or some of the trend movements, right? Target prices, where you could enter again, right? Type V for value. If you've got value so far, I want to make sure that all of you got value over here. I think that's the whole purpose of this entire, ask me any stock session, right? Let me know. Type V for value. All right, thank you so much. We have Mahison value, Colleen value as well. All right, thank you so much. We have Rajan. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much, Rajan, for your kind words. Really appreciate that. All right, Styler value. Okay, so very good, very good. So very simple, guys. All right, as I say, right, all this while what me and Z have been using would be the one good trend strategy, and of course, based on this strategy that I've been using for more than 15 years, 20 years, right? Well, essentially, we have indicator. We have been using the One Good Trend Pro indicator, all right, whereby, in a matter of seconds, you can turn it on and get an opinion whether to buy or sell based on the bullish or bearish signals, right? So you want to find out a bit more, attend one of those free webinars, right? The link is in the chat. Z, can you just place the link in the chat again, right? The free webinar next Tuesday evening, 7:30 p.m. We do have a free webinar, right? You can find out a bit more about the entire strategy and also, how perhaps you could also have access to the 1GT Pro indicator, right? So the link is already in the chat, right? And one more thing, right? If you would prefer to just test drive it first, right? Yeah, we do have a light version. I call it the One Good Trend Light, not the Pro, the light indicator, all right? And so you can place the link in the chat one final time, all right? And click on the link, test drive my One Good Trend Light indicator, and you pretty much come to this page right over here, right? Right over here, whereby most incredible free gift ever in the stock market test drive my One Good Trend Light indicator for free, right? To achieve 12% to 15% profits consistently, knowing when to get in and when to get out. So this is a simpler version, right? There's no other advanced stuff like the trailing support and risk management and all the stuff. But it's a simpler version. It just contains the bullish and bearish signals and also the moving averages, which is good enough. I mean, if you want to keep things simple, it's good enough. And that could guide you as well, not to get in and get out, especially if you see any bullish or bearish signal. So just to test drive it, right, we actually give you more than $3,000 worth of pure money making trainings for free, just for saying maybe, right? Just check it out. The link is in the chat. You'll come to this page, going to secure your free trial, right, to the 1GT Light indicator, right? Okay, so very good. Let's move on. Let's move on right now to the bonus stock for today, right? So this bonus stock I'd like to share with you guys would be this company, which I think I shared it about 2 weeks back or maybe a month back, right? Called the Safton Company, SO, right? SO is the code. It's more like a utilities firm, right? And I like this stock because you can see that for this stock, while the longer term trend has been up since last year, red above the blue, we saw a little bit of a consolidation below the 92, 93 resistance level since October, right? So longer term trend was up, but then we started to move sideways, all right? It was just touching this resistance level and coming back down, right? That was in October last year. Same thing, right? In March, we touch and we come back down. We touch, we come back down. May also touch, come back down. Every time cannot go above the 92 to 93, right? It's what we call a very key resistance level. However, over the past 1 week or 2 weeks, right, we managed to break above the 93, even 94, right? So now we are somewhere around 95 level. So this resistance, you can see it was a red line, which I've turned to green in color because that would now be a new support level. And if you look at the short-term trend, right, the short-term trend, look at the green line. The green line was like up and down, then up, then flat. And now it is starting to point up as another confirmation of the short-term trend pointing back up. So I think it looks pretty bullish, right? It looks pretty bullish. And what I could do right now is to also turn on, as I say, right, this One Good Trend Pro indicator, right? Matter of seconds for any asset classes, US stock, Singapore stock, DBS, Apple, whatever, right? Turn it on. Let's see what happens, right? Well, we have a couple of bullish signals. So we've got bearish. Bearish signal, it starts coming down, down, down. Bullish signal in January, it starts going back up. A bearish signal, it went sideways. And most recently, in May, we got a new 1GT bullish signal coming out. But it was still kind of like consolidating below the resistance. Right? However, the confirmation came as we broke the 92, 93 resistance. And seems like this bullish signal is in play right now, right? And we are making our way up, right? So what could be the next upside targets? Well, we could do a little bit of a projection right over here. I would say that would be kind of like the consolidation range we have seen over the past 2 to 3 months, right? So you can do a bit of projection from here and we project it upwards, right? Somewhere over here, right? Somewhere over here, right? And that would be around $100, $100 psychological resistance level. So you can draw another resistance level right over here. I think that is where potentially, right, near $100, maybe 97, 98, 99, some selling can actually come back again, right? So this is Safton Company, right? One of the stocks that have, seen signs of the short-term trend turning up. We have broken a very key resistance. I think it could be the start of another phase higher, right? Consolidate below 100 for a while. It breaks 100, targets could be revised up again, right? Safton Company, code SO. All right, so I'll leave it to Z to cover her bonus stock for today. All right, Z, all yours.
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, so Joey actually covered Southern Company, right? So let me share with you guys what's on my bonus stock for today. All right. So my bonus stock for today, that would be this stock called Well Tower, right? I hope you guys can see this stock is called Well Tower, right? And the stock code is WELL. So as you guys can see on the chart over here, right? I would say that the trend of this particular stock, do you think that the trend looks beautiful? I would think it looks beautiful. It is a very beautiful chart, right? Because of how it is moving in terms of the moving averages. You know, whenever I look at some charts like that, right, and the trend looks very nice, right? To me, is a very nice picture to look at, right? And plus the fact that uptrend is one thing, right? But when it is in an uptrend and you see consolidation happening before pushing up even higher, that's fantastic, right? Because the thing is that when the uptrend is actually intact, the uptrend is really intact, right? But what makes an uptrend sustainable, like what I always tell our clients, our mentees, is that whenever you see a consolidation happening in an uptrend and it breaks out, it push up even higher after a consolidation, that is what makes the uptrend sustainable, right? That is what we like to see, rather than, uptrend also it can go up very fast, but without any consolidation it can also come down very fast, right? So this is one of the main reasons, based on a chart, based on just a very quick glance at this chart. This is why I really like this particular stock. All right, so let's take a look at some of the levels as well. All right, so in terms of support level, right, okay, yesterday price closed at 161, right? 161. And what we can see here, if we can see, I don't have to talk about the trend previously. It has been going up, right? But right over here, definitely one of the support level that we can spot will be around this 140 level, right? Previously it was actually a resistance, tested right over here, broke above it. This was when the tariffs actually happened, came back down, we tested it, price rebounded, we captured this 140, went back up, right? And 140 is one of the levels. The next level, this was actually what we call a resistance, right? Near this 155, 156, this level right over here, this was actually a resistance. Tested once, tested twice. We have a 1GD bearish signal, tested here again, somewhere in May, somewhere in June. This 155, 156 is actually what we call a resistance, right? A resistance level, right? And eventually it managed to break above it not too long ago, right? Somewhere, in the mid of July, and right now we are actually still holding above this level. So in terms of this particular stock, right, if you are thinking about, where can we potentially position ourselves for entry, right? It would be considered, I would say this would be more considered like a breakout strategy, right? Because price have broken above a range, right? A range that it was trading from 140 to about 155. This was the range, right? And it has broken above this range, and your resistance has turned from what will become a resistance to a support level, right? So then this level, because this is a new higher resistance, this is one of the levels that potentially we can actually position ourselves for entry. And this is where we can potentially set some price alert, right, to notify you, if prices were to come back to near this 155, 156, this new higher support level. This is where you can potentially consider to accumulate some position, right? This is one of the potential buy zones that we can actually look at, right? And in terms of resistance wise, where can we see the price head towards, or what are the targets that we are looking towards? Very simple, based on a range projection, right? Based on range projection upwards, perhaps it will be about until 175, this level right over here, right? And this is based on a very simple range projection upwards. And if prices can continue to hold above this 155, potential upside target to 170 level, and this is where we can actually take some profits as well, right? There's nothing wrong to take some profits near the 170 if prices actually hit to this resistance level. Because plus the fact that we actually see how many, okay, I think there's three, right? 3 consecutive 1GT bullish signal, and there's still no bearish signal, still no exits yet. Plus we are looking at the trend, all the moving averages are still pointing up. Prices break above a new level and forming a new higher resistance. I think all of these signs point to a potentially good trade, right? Especially so if prices can continue the momentum and hold above this 155, which is a new higher support, right? But of course, I want to highlight the other thing is that if you just look down over here, the earnings is actually coming out on Monday, right? It's coming out on Monday. So whenever there is earnings results, there could be volatility coming back to the counter. So prices could get up, could get down. I'm not too sure, right? If you were to ask me, but how will the price move or how will it look like? I don't know, right? I don't know. I won't be able to forecast the results. But if prices is actually able to hold above the 155, right, I think it is still okay. And the other way that we can actually see is use this trailing support and resistance function, right? So if I were to turn it on, right now, price definitely is still holding above the trailing support. You can see the trailing support is somewhere around this 152. And even if let's say the earnings results come out, right, and maybe the prices could be fluctuating within the trailing support to about the 155, 156, I think it is still okay as long as it's still holding above the trailing support, right? It is still fine because like what Joey mentioned, the trailing support gives the stock room to breathe. So if it does break down below the room that you have given it for it to breathe, then not so good. Then that's where we might want to take a look and not to rush in, right? Not to rush in, even though like yes, the longer term trend still looks okay, but you don't have to rush into a stock, right? You don't have to rush in. So that is where if prices were to break below the trailing support, you might want to monitor a bit more, put it in your watch list, continue to monitor this stock and see then where could the potential buy zones be at. But at this point in time, these are some of the levels that I've drawn, and these are some of the levels that potentially, you can also set some price alert and add it into your watch list. All right. So definitely uptrend still looking intact. This is what stock that I like for this particular month for this bonus sharing. So I hope you guys have gotten some value from today's session. And with that, I'll pass the time back over to Joey to actually close off today's session.
All right, thank you so much, Z. So that is the two bonus stocks, right, for today, guys. Safton Company, SO, and of course we have Well Tower. The code is WELL, right? So I hope you guys like these two stocks and watch it, right? Put it in your watch list, monitor them, and hopefully it hits our targets that we mentioned as well, right? So I'm glad all of you got value over here. Ingrid, Jimmy as well, value, Rajan, M as well. All right, so thank you so much. Thank you so much. So basically, how many find that this is a pretty powerful tool that we have? I mean, every time you get a bullish signals, and then you start to see the stock really running up. That's type P for powerful, guys. If you see that it's pretty powerful, all right, type P for powerful. Let me know, like type P for powerful if you feel that's pretty powerful. Every time you get a bullish signals, right, and then after 1 week later, 2 weeks later, it starts to move up. Type P for powerful, guys. If you feel that is pretty powerful, let me know, right, if this is pretty powerful to you. Let's see. P for powerful, right? How many find it pretty powerful? All right, that this indicator is, yeah, I know every time you get a bullish signals, it starts moving out. Of course, you get bearish signal, it starts coming down as well. All right, P, powerful. All right, can you see yourself using these, guys? I mean, nothing complicated, right? Just to type the name of the stock, any asset classes, turn it on, get an opinion in seconds, right? So as I say, if you want to find a bit more, attend one of those free webinar. All right, attend one of those free webinar. Thank you so much. P, Dave as well, Colleen, P, powerful, Victor, powerful as well. Thanks, Joey and Z. Your passion inspired my understanding. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so very good. I hope all of you found it powerful as well. Attend one of those free webinars to learn a bit more next Tuesday evening. That's where we have our my webinar to share a bit more of my one good trend strategy. All right, my one good trend strategy. So the link is right in the chat above. Maybe I can just place the link one more time for the webinar. All right, and one more thing I want to add, guys, is that even though today we are covering like US stocks, right? But if you guys are focusing into the Singapore market, what happens is that on a daily basis, all right, we actually do share with our VIP clients in Philips Securities, where I'm a broker, where Z is a broker, some of the top Singapore ideas. And in fact, Singapore market has been doing really well, I would say, like over the past 3-4 weeks. Singapore market has been even more bullish. All right, so that's where we actually share some of those top Singapore ideas daily by WhatsApp for free to our clients. So if you want to get, I'm not too sure if you're a client. I mean, if you're a client over here, great. Thank you so much for the support. Maybe just help me out here. Just type C for client, guys. If you are a client of mine in Philips Securities, you have a trading account under me in Philips Securities, type of C. Let me know, all right? So we can kind of like, acknowledge you as well. Let me know, right? If you're a client of mine in Philips Securities, you're getting our daily ideas by WhatsApp. Just type a C. Type a C in the chat, let me know. I think we have quite a bit of clients over here, right? Every Friday, we do have quite a bit of clients joining us. Let's see who's the client over here. Okay, very good. Thank you so much, right? So Vincent, thank you as well, Vincent. AR129, Stylo, all right? Hi, Doc Chung as well. Andy, Klein. So very good, right? We have quite a few clients over here joining us on our Friday weekly AMAS. But if you're not yet a client of mine in Philips Securities, right, whereby you're trading, I mean, you have a trading account somewhere, you log in just to buy and sell some stocks, but nobody send you anything, right? Nobody send you any ideas, video, WhatsApp, training, nothing, right? Nobody care about you or what, right? Check it out, right? The link is in the chat, right? The link in the chat, that's where we will share with you some private trainings, of course, some top ideas daily for free, right? To just give you some direction on what to actually focus on. So it's one of the services that we provide to our VIP clients in Phillip Securities, right? So Z, just place the link in the chat one more time, all right, regarding how you can become a VIP client of mine in Phillip Securities, right? So link is in the chat, right? So I can't wait to welcome you on board as well, all right, as a client. If you're not yet one, if you are, thank you so much for your support. Really appreciate it, right? Okay, so that's it, guys. Anything to add, Z, but before we close today's session?
I think for next week, Bervin will still be on reservice, and I'll be on a short holiday, but not to worry, Joey will still be here, and next week he will be going through the Singapore market with you guys. So for those of you here, right, who are actually interested or keen in the Singapore market and want to know more, Joey will still be here, he will still be around, he will still be providing you guys value for every Friday session. All right, so I hope to, see you guys again once I'm back the following Friday. But in the meantime, do come and support Joey next Friday and attend the session. All right, thank you so much.
Yeah. So very simple, right? Next Friday, I will be solo, right? I'll be solo, just one person, me only, right? Just pam, right? Singapore, back to Singapore next Friday, Singapore stocks. So if you're looking at the Singapore market, you can make sure you join us, right? Set the calendar, Friday, 10:30 a.m. We go live every Friday. So next Friday, we're back to Singapore stocks, right? So I can't wait to cover your Singapore stock. Okay, so that's it, guys. See you next Friday. Take care, everyone. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Take care. Bye.